Ready? All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome and welcome, everyone. We'll get our board meeting to order here for the call of order and roll call.
Kevin Alltucker,
Here.
Denise Diamond,
Here.
Mike Geister,
Here.
Austin Fullnagy,
Here.
Lisa Fragola,
Present.
Steve Mattel,
Here.
Zach Mulholland.
Here. Excellent. All present. Next, we'll move on to the land recognition. We have Avery Old Coyote to do the land recognition. Thank you.
Ishoda Balaja Ipchabachba, Be Absalaga, Be Biligoja, Esquest Pesia, Teshalk Es Luis Goest. Good evening. I introduce myself to you in my indigenous languages. My name is Avery Old Coyote. I belong to the Apsalaga people of the Crow Nation, as well as to the Kalispel people of the Flathead Nation, both of which are now located in what we now call Montana. I have the honor of serving as the Native American Student Program Coordinator here at Lane Community College. I am also serving as the faculty advisor for the Native American Student Association. Before I give the land recognition, I would like to provide a bit of context for what a land acknowledgement is and should be, and as well as a bit of a background from where that came from, the impetus of such acknowledgement. Here in the United States, we are standing on unsettled ground. This is land that a genocide was perpetuated, and so in other countries that genocides had taken place, much like Canada, Australia, South Africa, Rwanda, they have taken their governments have taken initiative to create what's called Truth and Reconciliation Commissions. In Canada, a few years ago, actually a couple decades ago, they initiated that, and one of their requirements or their recommendations was to give land acknowledgements. And so, the proximity of the United States to Canada, especially in post-secondary institutions, those acknowledgements trickle down south here to the United States. And it's a good idea. However, we should acknowledge too that they come from places where those governments have acknowledged the past and historical genocides and ongoing colonialism. And so, while these acknowledgements of homelands and land recognitions are well-meaning and well-intended, we're kind of letting the dog or the tail wag the dog here. We should be really doing the work before, in terms of, not just acknowledging the land, because that was taken, but there was also language that was taken, was also laws that were forbidden to be practiced. There was love that was forbidden, right, and criminalized up until 1978. And so, to me here at Lane, so I tell this story all the time. I'm really fortunate to be able to work here in Oregon when I'm not working here at Lane. I'm a river guide, and so I guide people down the Rogue River, the Deschutes River, the Snake River. And on the Rogue River, I'm, I guess, honored, but also burdened with telling the truth that is the Rogue River Wars of the 1851 to 1856. The Oregon Territory first governor, as well as the superintendent of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Joseph Lane, was tasked with creating Fort Lane in where we now are located down in Medford, Grants Pass area. That fort was put in there to protect the indigenous peoples, the Rogue River Indians, from the settlers, and Joseph Lane took it upon himself to actually flip that and then protect the settlers from the Indians, and then actually perpetuated his own genocide. and relocation. And so settler colonialism is predicated off of the recipe is as follows, right? There's three things you need to displace, you need to replace, and you need to erase. And so again, while these are well-meaning and well-intended, these actually perpetuate more erasure because we're not doing the work before. Here at Lane, I believe we should be really putting in, I call it the 4 L's, acknowledging the loss, displacement, dispossession, and disenfranchisement, not only of the land, but of the language, the laws, our legends, and then the love that is, all those are taken with care. And so I'm going to read a land acknowledgement in the Chinook Wawa language. Chinook Wawa is taught here at Lane. It's the only post-secondary institution that is taught. And so with the help of the instructor, Beth Shepard, we've translated and came up with this as follows. Altanakia tiki wawa ukuk ili yakwa, alabuya ili ukuk, alabuya tilakam, onsem shlaska munshlush ukuk ili, ankati betin tilakam, drech shlaska munk ata, alabuya tilakam shlaska ili, dret shlaska, munk ata, alabuya tilakam, Kakwa shlaska meliat, bet dret skukam ukuk kalapuya tilacham, alta shlush bus nkaya munk kimtex alapuya ilacham, nakya munk sachali na lima bus munk kimtex shlaska alapuya ilia yakwa. Hayamasi. Thank you.
Thank you for the wisdom and power of your words. Thank you. Item C is responses to information requests. Is there any comments or questions in regards to that? Looking on Zoom here, seeing none. We'll move to adoption of the agenda. May I ask if in the motion, maybe adoption of the agenda with flexibility? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And do a second?
Second.
Excellent. We'll do a roll call vote.
Kevin Alltucker,
Yes.
Denise Diamond,
Yes.
Mike Eister.
Aye.
Austin Fullnagy.
Aye.
Lisa Fragala,
Aye.
Steve Mattel.
Aye.
Zach Mulholland.
Aye.
Excellent. Now, the board will go into recess from the regular meeting to call a public hearing in regarding to an alternative method of contracting for the Lane Community College Building 16 in accordance with ORS 279C.335. So I'll call in that public hearing. And for the new board members, with the public hearing, this is an opportunity for the public to obviously make a comment and so forth. Usually for these type of ones, there's no public comment or there's no one that signs up for the public comment, as the case right now. But I want to offer a courtesy to the public. If there's anyone here who would like to make a public comment in regards to the alternative method of contracting for Building 16, I'd love to offer that opportunity.
I think that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And we do have a presentation. I apologize about that.
Yes.
Tom, yes. Tom, go ahead and yeah, we'll find out more about it down the agenda, but yeah. Go
No,
ahead.
I really have no comments at this time. I
Excellent.
just wanted to be available should.
Fantastic. Oh, fantastic. Cool. Excellent. Anyone else just for the courtesy of the public? All right. Gavel in, gavel out. We will now bring the board meeting back to order. And we will start off with public comment. With public comment, per board policy 320, the board may not respond directly to any issues raised during public comment, but we will refer those issues to the president for appropriate action from these public comments. We will start in person and then alternate between online and in person. And I also just want to promote decorum in this process. Public comment is a big part of our democracy, and I want to make sure that we keep quorum. Avoid applauding. If you could just, if you indicate support, just raise your hands like that to show support. But applauding, unfortunately, ruins decorum and it also slows down the public comment process. So I just wanted to state that ahead of time. Who do we have first for public comment in person?
Aiko Treader.
Hello, President Bolger and members of the board. My name is Aiko Treader. I'm the food service coordinator for the Lane Child and Family Center. I have been working for LCC for over 15 years. And I am the only staff member from food service and catering left working in the position I was hired for. I make about half the amount annually that would qualify my family for SNAP benefits. The exploitation of classified staff is, as you know, not new. There are countless examples that I'm certain you have heard, so I will share only one. We, the classified staff teachers of the Child and Family Center and myself, were on campus every single day during the height of COVID. All the while, we were refused hazard pay. If the college calls childcare providers, early childhood educators, and teachers essential workers, why are they not treating us as such? Where faculties have been given over $2 million, classified staff are being offered only just over $500,000 between all of us. Where is the justice in that? We deserve to be shown the respect and care that we give to this college every day to keep it running. It is my distinct displeasure to have to bring these issues to the attention of our Lane Community College leadership. Please hear us and move us to improve conditions and compensation for classified staff, the backbone of this institution. As a first step, pay your classified staff members a living wage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll switch to online.
Katie Neal.
Do we have Katie pulled up? Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Katie, go right ahead.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All righty, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Katie Neal, and I'm a graduate of Lane Community College as well as an employee. And I'm also the officer at large with LCCEF, which has been a position that's been vacant for a very long time. I'm speaking tonight because I wanted to express concern. I feel that the administration's approach towards classified employees during the current bargaining sessions is absolutely not in alignment with the college's core values, especially that of integrity, which speaks of fostering an environment of respect, fairness, and honesty. When I started on as an employee at Lane, I already noticed it felt a little bit divided by the existence of two unions, a faculty union and a union repping classified professionals. And for me, that seems like a bit of a problem because the community college functions as a gestalt we're not these individual bits and pieces that should be bargaining individually. We all work together and we need to bargain collectively. So the healthiness and the success of faculty is intertwined directly and impacted by the healthiness and success of the classified professionals. There is no faculty without the classified professionals, and there's no classified professionals without the faculty. We rely on each other. We are completely intertwined in a symbiotic relationship. So the community, the administration needs to approach the classified professionals with that in mind. So tying our paltry $500,000 to enrollment numbers, for example, which is not something that is a restriction for faculty, that strikes me as not fostering respect or fairness, which is a core value of the administration. So I am confused by the approach there, and I would like to see some changes there. As a 1039er, I don't get any benefits at all. So I'm not being directly impacted already than just not having any benefits and not having a secure position and really having my hours be able to be cut at any moment or time. So I don't even know what the perks are to having a 1039 position at all. It was supposed to be a temporary position, and it just seems like mostly 1039ers are just a permanent kind of position where the community college doesn't have to pay out any of the benefits or give any of the employees that kind of respect. I'm out of time, so I'll stop, but I think my point has been made. Thank you.
Thank you. Switch to back in person.
Adrian Mitchell. Good evening. My name is Adrian Mitchell, and I serve as the president of the Faculty Union. I'll briefly address two topics. First, I'm speaking here tonight in solidarity with our classified colleagues in the LCCEF. I'm concerned that the proposal the college has made, which does not guarantee steps for classified who have earned them, is unlawful. Oregon's Equal Pay Act does allow for salary schedules. However, not applying the salary schedule with regular step advancements evenly and fairly each year would likely result in bully claims or possibly lawsuits against LCC due to disparate impact to women and historically oppressed groups. In addition, it is well known among CFOs that a step system is cost neutral because as employees leave from higher steps, new employees are hired at lower steps. Finally, I'm concerned about the message LCC is sending to the community at large by maintaining some hourly wages on the classified salary schedule that are below minimum wage and also freezing classified benefits. Faculty stand with the LCCEF. We urge you to come to an agreement that is reasonable, fair, and demonstrates that LCC values our amazing classified colleagues. The second part of my statement I provide as not only a campus member and faculty representative, but as a Lane County voter regarding a matter of public concern. I'm concerned about the extent to which you as our publicly elected Board of Education members may not be included in critical decisions that impact our campus and community, and that relate directly to your fiduciary responsibilities, as well as to Board Policy 030, among others. First, as noted in my email, I ask you to consider removing Titan Court from the consent agenda to allow time for a discussion and fully informed decision-making. For instance, you might wish to consider in-house operations or working with the nonprofit College Housing Northwest, which reduces barriers to housing for college students instead of providing more than $1 million to a for-profit company for an additional year. Second, I ask you to review the board decision in 2017 to eliminate the respiratory care program. Faculty did not support its elimination and would welcome grant funding and other opportunities to better serve the community. However, the decision to reinstate a program is squarely within your purview as the elected board and can only happen through your vote. LCC has already posted a position to hire faculty for the program without your vote to reinstate it, an issue which merits careful consideration of how the program will be sustained after the grant funds expire. Third, I ask you to take an active role in the budget process by deliberating and voting on any proposed budget changes, including cuts packages. The allocation of $3.8 million to account for a possible revenue shortfall at the May 24th Budget Committee meeting was predicated on the discussion at that public meeting and subsequent ones that the board would make decisions about changes to the budget. Finally, I ask that you recommend a return to the practice of informing the campus community and using the regular meeting section of board docs to post all meetings and materials, including trainings, so that the public and campus can be fully informed. Unless campus community members were privy to press releases, there was no way to find information about or access the 3 recent trainings, and the placement of related materials
I'll let
in
you
the
finish your
library
last comment here.
reduces their visibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next online.
Do we have anyone online?
No more.
No one online. So we'll go, Sarah Erickson.
Good evening, members of the board and President Bolger. My name is Sarah Erickson, and I'm a faculty member in the Mathematics and Engineering Department here at Lane. I came this evening to express my solidarity with Lane's classified professionals and LCCEF's bargaining efforts. Lane's mission is to provide quality, comprehensive, accessible, inclusive, learner-centered educational opportunities that promote equitable student success. Fulfilling this mission would not be possible without the classified professionals who do the critical everyday work of keeping this campus running. As fall term approaches, hundreds of classified professionals are hard at work to ensure our campus is safe and clean, our classrooms have the necessary equipment and technology, and our students are connected to the resources they need for success. As I prepare to teach my fall term courses, I rely daily on the work of Lane's classified professionals, including advisors, department coordinators, facilities management professionals, support services professionals, academic technology professionals, just to name a few. Given how critical Lane's classified professionals are to our college and our student success, I was surprised and disappointed to learn that college administration has proposed no steps for classified professionals this year unless student enrollment jumps significantly, and freezing college contributions to insurance going forward. This is insulting. Food prices and costs of other living essentials remain through the roof. Instead of sliding further behind, classified professionals deserve dignified wages and a decent standard of living. There are other ways to balance a budget. The college will not be able to fulfill its mission if it continues to pinch its classified professionals, many of whom are already among the lowest paid employees on our campus. I hope that the many contributions and sacrifices that Lane's classified professionals have made and continue to make are taken into account as negotiations continue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next.
Denise Brinkman.
I'm in person. I'm not.
Oh, I think there's no more online. Oh, Fiora. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
My name's Denise Brinkman, and I've been employed by the college for more than 25 years. That's more than the cabinet, the Board of Education, the HR director, the classified leadership, and both bargaining teams. I was a member of the classified bargaining team and grievance chair for 10 years. Everyone that I served with or bargained with, aside from Sharon, Daniel, and Anita, is gone, either retired or deceased. That longevity gives me some perspective on differences in leadership and in contract negotiation. First, we have a budget crisis every year. I don't know if other community colleges have the same dilemma, but that perennial crisis makes the college lose credibility when they say it. Second, of the 3 employee groups, the classified unit is the lowest on the totem pole in terms of clout and respect. We don't like it, of course, but we do recognize that reality. Part of that recognition is evidenced by how the college bargains with the faculty union versus how they bargain with us. The college agreement this year with the faculty, and I've gotten my numbers from a couple of sources, so if I'm wrong, I apologize. The college agreement this year with the faculty has already been settled, and we're happy for the faculty union in getting the best deal they could. However, there's a big disparity. The faculty obtained an agreement that was worth $1.9 million without OPE and 2.4 million with. The college is currently offering the classified union a total package worth $500,000 with OPE. In case you're wondering, that's about $308,000 without. Seriously? $308,000 versus 1.9 million? That's supposed to be a respectable offer? In the benefit proposal, the college wants to eliminate the health insurance stop loss language because a consultant told them that our OPE is too high. However, the language is still retained in the faculty contract and isn't going to be removed from management. This is fairness. Seems like a bait and switch deal to me, especially since that language wasn't removed in either of the other two places. If you'd like to know how the classified union ended up with a couple different benefits that the current administration dislikes, I'll be happy to forward that to you. Both of, that's Summer Fridays and the no layoff MOA. Both of those agreements were bargained due to wage table erosion and serious long-term financial loss to the classified employees. Please do the right thing. Recommend a fairer contract proposal to the classified union tonight. We're counting on you.
Thank you. Next.
Frankie Kokenor.
Hello, I hope I have enough time to get through what I've written tonight. And thank you to everybody who's here. Thank you to the faculty for supporting us. At this college, every department we have employee shortages. Almost every classified professional is doing the work of at least 2 people, and in some cases, we have employees doing the work of 5 people. The classified professionals at this college are feeling undervalued, and they're right. While they are feeling undervalued and overworked professionally, they are going home and trying to make their paycheck stretch to cover bills. Everything in our county is costing more than it ever has. If you Google the average cost of an apartment in Eugene, Oregon, you will find the answer is $2,072 for a 2-bedroom. That will cost almost $25,000 this year. And I'm sorry, I lost my place. And those who are at the tops or who are level 5 employees at the top step, they make about $45,000 or $44,000 a year. So that will cost them, that leaves them about $19,000 left to pay utilities, food, medical expenses, car payments, car insurance, fuel, renter's insurance, clothing. And maybe if they have anything left over that, they can go to a movie or get a fishing license or something to do for an activity. If they have kids, then they have to pay daycare, which costs about $12,000 a year for one full-time child in our area. I think if you can do the math on how much money this employee has left, which means that they are borrowing to pay bills or working 2 jobs, and that's no way to live. And that employee that makes $44,000 a year cannot get SNAP benefits or anything to assist them, to help them put food on the table. How many of you have studied Jack Welch in college or on your own? Jack Welch was considered one of the greatest CEOs in American history. I don't think he was. But many people do. They consider him amazing because he made rich people richer. His philosophy was to stop what is considered the welfare capitalism, where you give good wages and benefits to employees, as something that was sentimental and wasteful. He felt that money should go to the shareholders. Now, I know that we don't have shareholders in the college, but listen to where I'm going with this. This summer, the administration was instructed to find ways to cut 6% of every department's budget. That doesn't seem so bad until you realize that this comes straight out of Jack Welch's playbook. One of the first things Jack Welch did was to lay people off and shut down dozens of factories. Then he instituted the vitality curve, which is also known as the rank and yank, and fired the bottom 10%. This was done as a way to reduce labor costs and amplify profits. This year, the college is following Jack's playbook. They're looking at ways to cut department costs by 6%, cutting the needed benefits that the classified workers currently receive, and then offering a paltry 2.25% raise with no steps in the first year. And even though we know that this step increase is cost neutral, they're still doing this.
Yeah, I'll let you finish your final thought.
Oh, my time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I apologize. I had more to say, but
Yeah,
thank you.
excellent. Thank you. Next. Appreciate it.
Okay.
2 online.
Susan.
Excellent.
Susan Cox.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm not Susan Ox, but anyway, first of all, I wanted to comment on the announcement that was in the paper today and to congratulate Stephanie and her team for the gift of 2.3 million, I think, from Peace Health. And what a difference that's going to make to the nursing program. And it also reflects the hard work and success of Stephanie and her team. So it's a great way, I think, to start the year. But I also wanted to express concern about the $3.4 million shortfall in the 23-24 budget, as well as the downgrade by Moody's of LCC's bond rating. Those are significant challenges. I have a lot of confidence in Stephanie and her team to be able to address them. I just want to express my concern to the board that this is something, particularly as we go into a capital campaign, that I think reflects on the decision. So I hope that as a member of the foundation board, I have to express how much we have appreciated working with Stephanie, her leadership, but I know that this is going to be a challenge, and anything that all of us can do to support her and her team, her staff, and everyone at LCC, I think is really important. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I know she is, but is Kate Sullivan? Is she speaking? Kate Sullivan, are you signed up to speak? Decline. Okay.
Declined. Okay.
Fiora Starchild Wolf.
Excellent. If you're online. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha. With that, that concludes public comment. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to President's report. President Balder.
Good evening, everyone. I begin my report this month by personally thanking the Board of Education for their support of our institution. Your counsel, stewardship, and encouragement are invaluable to us in maintaining resilience and fulfilling the college's mission. I'm also delighted to introduce and welcome Brent Munoz, who's our new Vice President of Information Technology. Welcome, Brent.
Welcome.
The college is providing attention and care to the many new and returning students who are choosing LCC as their college of choice. Credit enrollment is increasing as we begin the academic year. Headcount enrollment for the summer 2023 term is up 7.8% compared to last year. Early enrollment figures for the fall 2023 term are higher compared to last year as well. RegFests are providing drop-in financial aid, admissions, and registration support, and are an important component to the college's initiative to increase services to prospective students. Knowing how important it is for students to feel like they belong at LCC, Welcome Week will be held on the first 2 days of fall term classes, Tuesday, September 26, and Wednesday, September 27. These first crucial days set the tone for our students' experiences and play a significant role in shaping their academic journey. To ensure a welcoming environment for our students, I have asked the college community at every level to support students in navigating their schedules, finding their classrooms, addressing questions or concerns, encouraging students, and becoming acclimated to campus. Everyone has a role to play. Our presence will not only contribute to the positive experiences of our students, but also will reflect a strong sense of the LCC culture of focusing on students. LCC will also recognize National Latinx Heritage Month during September 15th to October 15th with activities to celebrate the histories, cultures, and contributions of those of Latinx descent. On the statewide front, the Oregon Community College Association released a report on the economic value of Oregon community colleges. For LCC specifically, associate degree holders receive an annual boost to their earnings of $7,900 compared to their high school graduate counterparts. Furthermore, taxpayers enjoy added tax revenues because of LCC's economic value to the community. Regarding the expansion of partnerships, we have visited with 8 superintendents across Lane County in their communities to discuss the education and training needs and interests of their students, employees, and families. I look forward to sharing more about initiatives that arise from these visits. In July, I welcomed President Carl Schultz, president of the University of Oregon, to the main campus for conversation and a tour. As I wrap up this report, I want to share that LCC has had some fun over the summer. Classified Appreciation Day was July 27th, and the S3 barbecue was held on August 30th. Specialized Support Services, or S3, provides job training and education to adults with developmental and intellectual disabilities. We will have more fun at the Fall In service on September 21 as we prepare for the fall term. That's my report.
Excellent. Thank you. And I'll also welcome on behalf of the board. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda, we have, we can approve, we can withdraw certain items from the consent agenda, and we can discuss those if necessary. We'll start with Mike.
I'd like to pull item F, Titan Court, for more discussion.
Excellent. So we'll remove item F. Zach, I saw your hand up. What item would you?
I'd like to add C just because I just have questions. I just want to know more about it so that I'm fully understanding what we're doing.
All right, C and F will be removed. Are there any other items that the board wishes to remove from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none. Is there a motion though to pass the consent agenda with?
So move.
Excellent. Do we got a second?
Second.
Excellent. So with that, we're just motion to pass the consent agenda minus the removed items. We'll do a roll call vote.
Kevin Alltucker,
I have a question.
Oh, question. Sorry.
Maybe I missed something, but the KLCC appointment, was there somebody nominated for that? Or
Oh, Kevin Alter.
okay, I didn't, well, at least the document I saw showed a blank there. So I thought we were going through a process of nominating somebody. I wanted to nominate Kevin, but I just didn't realize that had been done already. The document I saw had a blank in that space.
My apologies. Yeah, I was under the impression there was a document in there that showed Kevin Altucker as the.
Did I miss?
Let's see. Let me just.
updating it. We originally had it as an action item.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that's right. We originally had it as an action item with just Kevin Altucker in there, but we moved it to the consent agenda. So, yeah.
Sounds good. Sorry about that.
Cool. No worries. Excellent. Okay. We'll move on to a roll call vote.
Kevin Alltucker,
Aye.
Denise Diamond,
Aye.
Mike Eister,
Aye.
Austin Volnegi,
Aye.
Lisa Fragala. Aye. Steve Mattel.
Aye.
Zach Mulholland.
Aye.
Excellent. Going in order, we will start with item C. Zach, you wanted to pull that one out?
Sure. Can just someone explain to me what this vendor does and the change in cost from the previous provider to this provider?
President Bulger, who do we like to speak?
Yes, I think Shane will speak to this.
Shane, excellent.
Sure. So this provider enables people to use the Section 125 portion of the IRS tax code. And so it allows people to set aside money on a pre-tax basis for both medical and dependent care, and then seek reimbursement out of those pre-tax funds, thus saving them what they would pay on FICA and Medicare, 7.65%, and federal and state income tax. So it's a nice tax sheltered opportunity for our employees. If you've ever had a kid with braces, you really appreciate the Section 125 plan. The difference in, I don't know off the top of my head, the difference in cost. This is a cost reduction over what we're paying now on a per employee basis for these services. And one of the most attractive things about this new vendor is the increase in customer service to the back end. We didn't have a lot of problems with employee customer service, but some challenges from HR and administration of the Flex plan with the previous vendor. And so very excited about the dedicated support this new one provides at a lower cost than any of the other competing options.
Excellent. Zach, did that answer your question, or do you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that it's lower cost than the previous provider. If you can provide a follow-up of the annual cost of one versus the other, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Will do. Excellent. Any other questions from board members? Seeing none, we will go ahead and vote on this. We will do a roll call vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for item C.
Oh, yeah, just for item C. I apologize. Yeah.
We need a motion.
I think.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I apologize about it. Do we have a motion to pass item
Motion
C?
to approve.
Excellent. And do we have a second?
Second.
Excellent. Perfect. Now we'll do a roll call vote. Thank you.
Kevin Alltucker,
Aye.
Denise Diamond,
Aye.
Mike Eister,
Aye.
Austin Fullnagy.
Aye.
Lisa Fragala. Aye. Steve Mattel,
Aye.
Zach Mulholland.
Aye.
Excellent. Perfect. With that passed, move on to item F, Titan Court Management Services. Mike?
Thank you. Yeah, I spent almost my entire professional career in student housing on 6 different campuses. So I know there are a lot of organizations in the field of managing student housing. I understand that they aren't all located in Eugene and that may be difficult. But I would encourage us to be maybe a little bit more flexible about our requirements, because I think there's a wide variety of firms and companies that are potentially available to do this work and could do it from some distance. I was familiar with College Housing Northwest, worked directly with those folks, but that's been a long time ago, so I don't know what they're like now. But at that time, they were a reputable company doing lots of good work. And there are local firms that may not be in the student housing business in particular, but certainly are familiar with rental property and property management. So I'm hoping that we can get our information out early enough so that we're not in a position next year that we have to extend in order to meet our deadline for for the next contract.
Absolutely. And I want other board members to be able to ask questions, but Dr. Bulger, who would
We
you
thank
like to
you for
present on that?
that.
Yeah.
Yes, we thank you for that. And I wonder if we could give a sense of the timeline for the next RFP. Do we know?
Beginning after this, hello again.
Great to see.
I haven't introduced myself on the last time properly, so let me introduce again. My name is Laura. I'm the Director of Contract and Procurement Services. So for this RFP, we are going to start, we already have a cabinet discussion already. So we're going to have a selection committee, and then we will start doing the RFP, which will take us about the 3 months for overall. And then we are hoping that by beginning of the early next year, that we can be coming up back with our proposal and then a selection recommendation from our committee.
Excellent. Great. Thank you.
I move that we approve this item.
And do we got a second?
I think other people want to speak.
Oh, yeah. There's a motion. There's discussion that can happen after the motion if it's seconded. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. So for the purposes of discussion, let's call on Zach. Any questions? Kevin, Lisa? And we'll start with that and we'll go from there.
I think Lisa was ahead of me, so.
Okay. Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you, Zach.
So I'd like to echo some of the things that Board Member Eister expressed. I feel it's important that we do have a very robust RFP process and that we are looking at less narrow definitions for housing management organizations. I'd like to request that we have some clear options presented to us and are regularly updated on how the progress is being made with this. This board, when I first joined it, had many conversations about Titan Court, and it's really concerns me the manner in which it is a financial lodestone to the institution. I think it's important for new board members to understand that it was built with the intention to provide housing for international students so that that program could be developed and that program would be able to generate funding. We did have really long conversations about the fact that in the end, the best we could do was stay hanging in there with it. And I appreciate that that information was provided. It does frustrate me to know that there is a potential for more profit from Titan Court potentially, and to know that when we could hopefully be making more money from that, that it's going to a private corporation located in Texas. So I'm not opposed to out-of-state organizations, but I do want us to have some options. And I want us to be able to realize some benefits from Titan Court that are financial in nature. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Zach, then Kevin. Zach, go ahead.
So I guess I'm just interested in more information as we move it. You know, it looks like it's too late this year to make major changes. And so just looking forward to next year. I'd be interested in the, you know, how the rents at Titan Court compare to market rents and compare to dorm rents at the University of Oregon. I'm also interested in exploring what other management options might be. It seems like, you know, $1 million out of of management and maintenance compared to a $2 million of rent seems high. I'd be interested in learning from the UO what their management costs are for their dorms as a comparator, and you know, exploring what options but there might be to you know, maybe piggyback on what they're doing in terms of management, so that, you know, we're not just doing it all by ourselves, since they seem to have expertise in that area. And I think that's all for now. Thank you.
Dr. Bulger, would Brent have some? I remember he responded in the document about a few of those questions in regards to market rent and a few other questions he had.
No, I think that was a conversation that we had.
Gotcha.
And I'm speaking on as a father of a soon-to-be Titan Court resident. What I can say is, and this is just through my daughter's experience, but the rents at Titan Court are some of the most affordable rents for college students in the downtown area. Could you probably increase those rents a little bit? Sure, but that kind of goes counter to some of the other comments that were made earlier about making sure that we have affordable places for our students to live in. So it is kind of one of those balancing acts, but it is 100% full right now. And, you know, we do it. It has some of the other benefits of for many years prior to particularly the Trump administration and COVID, we had the ability to grow our international program because of Titan Court. And so there's benefits like the rent from leases of the police station and some of the places in the academic building that stretch into Titan Court, or the growth of the international program, where we've been able to take funds that the international program made because they were able to grow with Titan Court, and the international programs were able to provide revenue to help balance the school's budget. So.
Excellent. Thank you for your patience, Kevin. Go ahead.
Sure. My questions have more to do with the contracting process and timeline, and I may have missed something, but why do we have to make this decision now? Is there a time issue that we need to consider? And is it too late to start an RFP process for January 2024? And that may have been covered, but I missed that.
Thank you for the questions. So an RFP process typically takes longer than your typical invitation to bid, because you have to develop the requirements, and it sounds like we're going to be changing them. So that will take some time. State law requires the RFP to be open and on the streets for at least a month. And if it's a complicated RFP, they request that you do it longer. So by the time you build those requirements and leave it open for a month and evaluate the responses, it is too late to have a full process by January 1.
Okay, thank you. That answers that. And then the other question is just very specific. So they have a 9.5% management fee. I'm assuming that's, reasonable in the market. That's what other firms typically charge.
It's actually a management fee that is 5% of collected rents.
5% of collected
So
rents.
It's 9.5% of that 1.1 million. So it's about $100,000 in the budget.
Gotcha. Okay. And just to comment, I don't have any problem with awarding a contract to a for-profit company. That's fine with me. My preference would be something local, but we do have examples where we do contract with out-of-state companies. So, all right.
Absolutely. Steve, we'll extend the time, obviously, for Steve to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Sue, for that response. I'm prepared to vote in support of the motion this evening. It seems to me that it makes sense to extend the contract for a year. But I also just wanted to put out there, based on what I'm hearing from colleagues, that prior to awarding that RFP, which would happen, I don't know, the new RFP sometime in the spring, that we have a full and thorough discussion about the future of Titan Court, so that we don't tie ourselves to a future via a contract to manage student housing. So prior to, we need to put the RFP on the street. We need to move that process forward, and we also probably need to have a complete discussion about its future, so that we can pick a particular path and move forward.
All right. Motion has been made and seconded. We will. Oh, I apologize. Lisa, I didn't see your hand. I apologize.
Thank you.
Lisa?
I'd like to request that we are updated about the parameters for the RFP, so that we can see what changes are being made and what efforts are being made to search for this company. If it's just a report and in one of the board reports, that's fine with me. I don't need an oral report.
Okay. I'll put myself in the queue just for a brief comment. I would also like to see what is the costing for in-house as well. I don't know if we do, they're called market feasibility reports. We do that at the state level, where we compare if we did it in-house as opposed to contracting out. And seeing that cost difference, I think, would be beneficial for future discussions and RFPs and so forth. Zach, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like us also to talk to the UO and see if we could contract with them to manage this using their dorm management services.
Excellent. Steve, and these are great suggestions, by the way, and we'll make sure that we take note of those. Steve, go ahead.
Just want to kind of open up the discussion in a different direction. We're a new board. We're figuring each other out and each other's styles and all that out. But we just went through a process basically of burdening our staff significantly with a bunch of work related to this contract, right? Some different questions from different folks, all valid questions, but we have to keep track of how much, staff time each of these things takes and whether and how to prioritize that time. I think the process by which we generally achieve that is when folks make recommendations, can we do X, Y, and Z? There needs to be some support from, I think, 2 other folks at a minimum on the board before we can move forward with a particular request that asks of us, that requires staff time. So I just wanted to put that out there before we just build the pile particular higher and higher.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Lisa?
Yeah, thank you for recognizing that, Steve. I did want to say that it came up at the retreat that we never officially implemented that process. We've never adopted it as a board. It was discussed, but never implemented. And that is actually something I would like to see implemented. And it was one of the things that we wanted to pursue in the ad hoc committee for goals, for operating goals for the board as a conversation. So I support moving that forward, but I think it would be helpful to, I don't know if this is the time to have a conversation and vote on adopting that policy or that approach, that operating approach.
So Chair Fulney, just to ask for some clarification for the team. And so is the board requesting that we do all of the things that that you've expressed to us? And we really appreciate your questions and comments. Just want to have some clarification on that.
Yeah. What I've heard from what I've heard so far is there are several board members that have some questions and would like to be kept up to date about it. But yeah, I'd love to hear from the board members. Mike?
I'm not sure exactly how to say this. I haven't formulated it very well, but I'd like to just remind ourselves that we don't administer the college. And it seems to me that broad direction to the staff to widen the parameters for the RFP is about all the direction I feel that I need to give. I don't feel like I need to tell them to check with so-and-so and compare this. They are the procurement professionals. And I think what my intention was to communicate that there probably is a solution out there. And I'd like to see the staff work a little harder to try and find that solution. But I don't want to get very prescriptive about how they do that. That's my preference.
Understood. Any other comments, questions? Denise?
I think the intention, I agree with you, Mike, as far as being prescriptive, but I do think that the intention falls under all the considerations that we're looking at for budgetary balance. Okay, so if there is a solution out there that has a different approach from the point of view of cost factors, it's going to be a plus for all of us to understand that and to see that. So if that's maybe one of the overriding goals or directives with it that we're keeping in mind, of course, we can get RFPs and responses from an awful lot of sources, but I think the filter that everybody's looking at is what that can do in a positive direction for our budget priorities.
Mike?
I don't mean to be arguing with myself, but there are gives and takes on all aspects of this, and the procurement people have to balance. Is budget more important than quality? Is budget more important than the service that's provided to students? We want all of those things. And so we want our procurement people to fairly balance all of those factors. And I'm reluctant to say where we want to give up or where we don't want to give up. Brett's point about is about we probably have $100 or $200 maybe flexibility in the price. do we really want to jack the price up $200 and make it harder for some of our students to, so the procurement people are trying to weigh all of these factors. And I don't want to be too prescriptive about telling them. I think they need to know that all these things are important to us and we'd like you to take them into consideration. But I don't want to be much more prescriptive than that.
Okay. Lisa, and then we have a motion to vote on.
I wasn't asking to be prescriptive about what procurement does. I was asking for a written report that would address some of the inquiries of the board. I think there were two topics here that were suggested. One is the RFP process for Titan Court, and there were several questions about that. And I mean, we could send them in an email prior to a board meeting and have them answered as well. But I think we're just I asked for a report. The other thing that I heard Steve request was is more of an extensive conversation about the future of Titan Court. And I do think that merits board attention, especially since it's been a while, and there's many of us that haven't had that fun conversation.
All right.
If
President
I could, yes, if I could just summarize what I heard.
Exactly.
Then the board would like some information about the process, about the fact that we've done due diligence and how we've done that. Consideration of costs. So those are the three elements that I heard that the board is interested in. And then really a presentation and discussion about the future of Titan Court.
Excellent. Zach, was there anything else you wanted to add to that summary?
Well, just it looked like in 2019, this question was discussed of what to do with Titan Court, including whether or not to sell it. So just having an update on that previous discussion and what the outcomes were, because obviously we decided not to sell it. So I don't want to jump to having that conversation all over again necessarily. So yes, I look forward to learning more about this RFP process as it moves forward and exploring any outside the box ideas that might come to mind. And then just as we move forward, looking at anything we can do to whether that's increase costs slightly or decrease expenses to make it so that this isn't such a high cost on the LCC in the short term. Thank you.
Excellent.
Also, Chair Fonagy is to rely on the board members who were on the board at the time of the 2019 report. I will really want to rely on you to give us a little bit of context if you have it. So I will be contacting you about that.
Excellent. All right, we will move to a vote. Roll call vote.
Kevin Alltucker,
Aye.
Denise Diamond,
Aye.
Mike Eister,
Aye.
Austin Volnaghi,
Nay.
Lisa Fragala,
Aye.
Steve Mattel,
Aye.
Zach Mulholland.
It looks like aye.
Zach, you were
Yep. Excellent.
Sorry. Aye. Yes, aye.
Perfect. All right. I really appreciate the conversation and the discussion that the board had on that topic. All right, we will move on to the action items. President's goals, 23, 24. And I believe we have a presentation for this as well. Yeah.
Well, not a presentation. We can certainly bring this on the up on the screen if that's possible. If that's possible, Brett and Randy. Excellent. And the board first saw these goals at the board retreat in July. These the goals. One of the suggestions or requests was to redline the 2022-23 goals, which we've done in this report. So, but what you see is first the 2023-24 goal. And so that's how it's organized. And so you see the fiscal condition, and then you see the redlining on the next page. There were not a lot of changes to this particular goal, as you can see. In fact, there were some additions. On the second goal is about enrollment. On that first page, page number 3, then you can see the goal and the strategy themselves. And then you can see on the next page, the red line, which is comparison with the 2022-23 goal and strategy. And then institutional culture, just today, I made some changes and I want to point out that change. It's a sentence, it's the second sentence of the goal area under institutional culture. It's got a lot of commas. I really apologize for all the commas. But I will go ahead and read that to you so that you can see what the change is essentially. Recognizing that based on the Gallup Climate Survey results, some employees report being engaged in the institution and some report being disengaged. Design and implement sustainable strategies that bring our collective values to action, including empowering departments to develop projects that will improve the campus climate. And so there were no changes that were substantial to the meaning of this sentence, but there was a combination. If you look at the next page, there was a combination of sentences, 2 sentences. There was an addition to the first sentence to make that basically a clause. And so you can see that in the second sentence of the goal on that page. Thank you for scrolling up a little bit. So you can see the second sentence and how the second sentence and the third sentence were essentially combined.
I don't think it actually shows the second and third sentence, but yeah, it just took the second and third sentences from what we saw a few weeks ago and combined them into one sentence.
All right. Any other questions? Mike?
I'm a little bit confused, and maybe I didn't read this well enough, but at one time I thought we were using an enrollment management consultant. Is that part of the strategy as well?
No.
Or did I just miss it?
No, you didn't miss it. In the 2022-23 goal, the strategy was to engage with a consultant to conduct an assessment. That was complete.
Oh, okay.
That was complete. And so the goal is different this year. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions? And if not, a motion?
Just not a motion.
Oh, yeah.
Just following up on that one, Stephanie, by the way, I am planning to support the goals. I think they're good. It makes sense to me that they're mild tweaks from last year in order to enact a vision of, like this. It takes several years. It makes sense that we would see the same goals with slight tweaks to them brought to us over a period of years. But a quick question here, just to get a sense of where you're headed on the enrollment, the strategy there, develop a sustainable yet flexible enrollment system. I'm just curious, does that suggest that you're thinking about building it from within as opposed to contracting for some kind of a platform from outside?
We are talking about building from within, but refining some of the systems that we've got. In particular, with respect to recruitment, registration, admissions, registration, and even retention.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions or a motion?
I move we adopt the president's goals.
And I second.
Excellent. It's been motioned and seconded. Any other points of discussion? Seeing none, go ahead and roll call vote.
Kevin Alltucker,
Aye.
Denise Diamond,
Aye.
Mike Eister,
Aye.
Austin Fullnagy,
Aye.
Lisa Fragala,
Aye.
Steve Mattel,
Aye.
Zach Mulholland.
Aye.
Excellent. We'll move on to resolution 686. And so this is obviously in regards to alternative contracting. I believe Tom is to present after a rigorous public comment hearing.
Thank you. I don't have a huge presentation. What we have, I just want to say, under this bond that I've been working with, this would be the fourth time we've come forward for this. We currently have one project, Florence project, we use the CMGC process, which we're in the final closeout process. We have two rather significant projects that you might have, those that have been around campus might have noticed a little dust lately. We have quite a bit going there. Process I have used a lot in my career. I think it works well. It's really about building that team to make the right decisions and to do it as a combined effort. And I think that's one of the great advantages of it. So I'm here to answer any questions from any of the board members. I know some of you are new. I've been through this a couple of times now, but happy to answer any specific questions at this time.
Excellent. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks for the report. And I think you did a great job of laying out the concept of CMGC. And I agree, it does offer a lot of potential savings. My question is it possible that you could supply, when you say it's been beneficial to LCC, is it possible to quantify in dollars? Can you give an example that would kind of put some numbers to the proposal?
I think that can be tough because it's more about an overall value. And I think, if we were to say, okay, I did it in a CMGC or I bid it, I would get, but I've been involved in a few studies of this. And typically what happens is a bid process ends up low on the day one, but there's a process of change orders throughout it, which tends to make it equal or higher. The other great advantage that I find as an architect and a designer, as well as a public manager of construction, is we can try out different ideas along the way. Whereas we can look at things and get that input as to what is it going to do to our time frame. This particular project we're looking at, we have an occupied building with science labs that we have no place else to put them. So we have to figure out how to phase that and the building's not going to grow. So how do you shift programs? How do you work with the academic groups to shift that around and replace the two chemistry labs that we have without displacing all the other things? So it's really a balance of that and avoiding other costs. And I think that's the big thing.
Excellent.
But I just, want to follow up. And I understand that. And I appreciate that. I spent 20 years as a construction engineer. And so I'm familiar with the advantages of this.
Mm-hmm.
But as an elected board, we have the, financial responsibility to make sure that Lane County taxpayers' dollars are being spent, responsibly and at the lowest cost overall.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where my questions come from.
Okay. What we are doing to maintain that competitive is in our RFP, we do have various cost factors that are included as part of that control. They will be in the RFP that we'll be releasing after, assuming that this is approved. We'll be asking for contractors to provide costs that will set their fees for the project. So what their markups are for various types of things, and that will be compared competitively. And that is part of the scoring process, along with other qualifications. So that's how we keep a competitive element to all of this and defining that and then having them bid on that aspect of it.
Thank you.
Excellent. Steve, then Mike, and I'll put myself in the queue as well.
Just following up on Kevin's questions, can you explain why is it exactly that the bond that we put out requires us initially, or that offers the standard process and this as an alternative? Why, if this is a better process, why isn't this the standard offered in the bond?
It's the nature of it's based on Oregon procurement rules that it is, and good state legislatures. Low bid is the procurement basis, but they have created this as an alternative. But when you read through it, and my understanding of the history of it and talking to people, is the state agreed that with the right management, it is appropriate. I'd like to think I can provide, and our team can provide the right management for it. So I'll state that. And it's not for every project. I don't think it is, but it is for, and that's part of the findings of fact. It's complexity of the project, the types of projects, the nature of things that it becomes very appropriate for.
And then the follow-up, you said we approved this 3 times previously for under this particular bond. And so there's 3 projects moving forward under this process. Is there any negative, feedback from that we ought to be aware of before taking this vote?
I have not received any myself. I looked to others around here, but yeah.
Gotcha. Any other questions? Mike?
I can just say that having been responsible for several multi-million-dollar projects at the university, what Tom is saying is right on target. You might come in at a low bid to start out with. There are so many variables that are unpredictable on a campus that you end up having to pay for change orders, that by the end of the project, you spend a lot more than you budgeted. And the CMGC process allows for that flexibility. That's been my experience.
Mhm. Excellent. First comment, then a question. First, so we at OCCA lobbied for these funds as well as other institutions. And I want to thank Mike, Lisa, and Rosie. We were up there together asking for this $8 million to be brought into our community. I know this building has a lot of science labs, courses like that. Oh, and pretty much almost every student has to eventually go to building 16. And I believe there's also a tutoring center there, if I'm not mistaken. As the updates are happening and so forth, what are the accommodations we're going to be making for those courses, classwork, so forth?
Great question. We're not that far. I'll
Okay.
be honest. I mean, we're looking at it, how we're shifting it. Part of it is the design process. How do we
Yes.
shift things around? But we're also working with the administration, the faculty. What can be moved around? How can we do it? Are there things offered online as opposed to, I think that was one of the things that came out of some of the faculty already was we just got out of a period where a lot of classes were offered online. And how do we do that? So a lot of different things that we're looking into. Depends on time frame, how it can be scheduled out. So I'll be happy to share that more when we get to a contract for construction.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussions on the motion? Seeing none. Go ahead, roll call.
Kevin Alltucker,
Aye.
Denise Diamond,
Aye.
Mike Eister,
Aye.
Austin Volnegi,
Aye.
Lisa Fragala,
Aye.
Steve Mattel,
Aye.
Zach Mulholland.
Aye.
Excellent. Moving on to discussion items. The first one is item A, capital campaign presentation. I believe yeah, excellent.
I'd like to introduce this, if I could. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to introduce this if I could, and give just a little bit of background since we have new board members. Gonzer Gerber is a consulting firm that was engaged by the LCC Foundation to conduct a feasibility study toward a capital campaign. The board, continuing board members may recall a presentation to the board in roughly December of last year, where there was visioning around the capital campaign, and the board unanimously agreed that that should be the visioning of this capital campaign. That led to a number of steps, which I will ask Wendy to cover and then introduce our consultant.
Sure. So we engaged a consultant, Walter Collins of Gonzer Gerber, who's with us and going to be giving this presentation. We've worked with our foundation board, with Dr. Bulger, and met with lots of departments on campus. I think we've gotten around to most of them. And people in the audience probably have seen us talk about this topic, but really, I just want to say also, this is the first time since I've been here that we've engaged that broadly in campaign visioning, visiting individual departments and really getting feedback from everyone on what goes into the case statement. So I was thrilled to do that. It was really fun. And we continue to do that and we'll continue to do that into the fall and winter. The feasibility study is wrapping up. We did an internal study and of our campaign readiness and an external study with our donors that Walter will talk about. And the results should be ready in October. We have a foundation board meeting in October that will be going over that, and then we'll come back to you with some results and next steps. So I don't want to steal Walter's thunder here describing all of this. So I will turn it over to him, but I'll be here also if you guys have questions that I can answer.
Excellent. Walter.
Thank you, Chair Fulnagi, and members of the Board of Education, and Dr. Bolger, as well as Wendy. Thanks for the opportunity to provide this overview. I'll keep it as brief as possible. I've got 15 slides, and I'm challenging myself to keep each slide under a minute. But I wanted to just provide you with this overview for campaign readiness study that was contracted by the Lane Community College Foundation. Can everybody see the PowerPoint on the screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So a bit about my background. I've got 22 years of advancement and leadership experience in higher education consulting experience in both public and private higher education. I've also held chief executive officer roles and executive director and vice president positions for higher education, social service, and nonprofit arts organizations. Our firm, Gonza Gerber, has over 73 years experience of conducting campaign readiness studies. And I'll talk a little bit about why we call them readiness studies and not feasibility studies in a couple of slides. For the purposes of our discussion this morning, this afternoon, this presentation this evening, actually, it's evening, I wanted to just start with a few definitions. Typically, a campaign is an organized fundraising effort with an announced financial goal and timeline. That's the broad definition of a campaign. A capital campaign is a more concerted or focused effort to raise substantial funds for a specific project or undertaking, usually for a building or buildings or equipment. Typically, when we think of a capital campaign, we think of something that's bricks and mortar, but it's actually more broadly focused on one specific project. A comprehensive campaign is more technically what Lane Community College is evaluating, and that's a concerted effort to raise substantial funds for multiple goals and priorities, including buildings, more equipments in this case, programs, scholarship funds, special funds, initiatives, and other priorities. So just some working definitions to guide our discussion this evening. So what are the outcomes of successful campaigns? What's the point of having a campaign? Campaigns bring a lot of benefits to organizations besides the financial support, but they typically, we found they strengthen the infrastructure and they build a culture of philanthropy at the college, at the institution. They create enthusiastic volunteer leaders, and these volunteer leaders usually have that longevity that stay on and can be leveraged for future support and future campaigns and future needs of the institution beyond the current campaign. Successful campaign, another outcome is that the brand of Lane Community College and the foundation is strengthened in the community among internal and external stakeholders. Of course, the primary reason for a campaign is to generate extraordinary amounts of gift income for Lane Community College. And that is one of the outcomes, of course, one of the most important outcomes of a successful campaign. And of course, gift income means really positioning Lane for future success and sustainability and educational relevance and excellence. So just another definition, institutional campaigns in the higher education setting as compared to another type of a campaign, in this case, a campaign that Lane is very familiar with, a bond campaign. Institutional campaigns contain quiet phases and public phases. Momentum is gained by the invitation of very large gifts early on in the process from among the institution's top prospects and donors. And then there's a public phase where the community is really engaged to come together on behalf of the college. As opposed to a bond campaign, they require a very public and early campaign at the inception of the campaign, a really public relations campaign, really no quiet phase. They require very active community coalition building, publicity, public and regulatory and legal influence and effort on behalf of the cause. So an important distinction there between an institutional fundraising campaign and another type of campaign like a bond campaign. So what are some of the important aspects of the quiet phase and the public phase? Why have a quiet phase, right? Well, a quiet phase really creates a sense of belonging and builds confidence in the project. It promotes deep understanding of philanthropic priorities among those folks that are most likely to support the campaign in a very large way with institutional and principal gifts. The quiet phase serves to build momentum for the public phase by also raising most of the funds needed, or a majority of them anyway, 60% is what we advise, from leadership or principal gifts. It really allows donors to shape the edges of a campaign by promoting a sense of ownership, by getting their fingerprints on the campaign priorities and their feedback. It also allows the institution, of course, to engender internal support from faculty, from staff, from board, to really hone what those campaign priorities are. So a quiet phase by no means is a secret phase. It's just a quiet phase where you're not publicly engaging the entirety of the community. You're really providing that internal support with on-campus stakeholders, and then moving it externally to your most closest, the college's most closest supporters and highest prospects to generate gift income in leadership and principal gifts. And of course, the public phase is when you announce the goal and you've got that momentum because you can go out to the public and message the fact that you're well on your way to reaching the campaign goal, and now providing the public with an opportunity to get excited and interested on behalf of the college and to participate, right? So the public phase is typically characterized by a concerted effort for participation in conjunction with dollar amounts, right? So if you've got a little bit left to raise, you really want as much participation as possible. And this is when we typically see a broader distribution of gift sizes, not just principal large gifts, but gifts of all sizes, allowing every member of the community that wants to participate. So what is the purpose of conducting a campaign readiness study? And typically, campaign readiness studies are known as feasibility studies, but we at Gonzer Gerber do two things. We look at assessing institutional preparedness, and that is internal by assessing the infrastructure of the Lane Community College Foundation and the college. How prepared is the college and the foundation to conduct a campaign? And then we look externally as well to assess the feasibility. So together, internal preparedness and external feasibility equals campaign readiness, which is why we call it a campaign readiness. So we assess institutional preparedness, and we've conducted interviews assessing that. We test the attractiveness of the campaign initiatives among those donors that are most likely top prospects for the campaign. We assess the feasibility of a financial goal based on interviewee feedback. We actually assess, is it feasible that a goal of this magnitude can be achieved in a certain amount of time? We also determine volunteer leadership potential, not only by asking interviewees if they would be willing to volunteer on behalf of the campaign, but also asking for nominations of names, confidential nominations of names for volunteer potential. And equally, we ask folks to identify additional major gift prospects for the foundation and the college to consider engaging on behalf of the campaign. So that's the 5 core purposes of conducting a campaign readiness study. So what can the foundation and the college expect that would be in the report, that will be in the campaign readiness study report? You can, as regards to the internal assessment, you can expect a systematic assessment of the leadership and staff's internal preparedness to implement a successful campaign. With regards to the external assessment, you can expect an assessment of external perception of Lane Community College and interest in each campaign investment and priorities. And based on that feedback that we receive, we'll be providing guidance and counsel and recommendations for the foundation staff in how to refine and finalize that preliminary campaign case statement. This is an opportunity for us to listen to those who are most likely to support the campaign and listen to their opinions on how to clarify the campaign priorities and how to make the priorities clearer and presented in a more compelling way that would lead them to be more supportive. This is not asking donors to shape the campaign priorities. This is for the college to do in conjunction with the process that the college has already undertaken. This is really about the presentation of the priorities and where the interest is in how they're presented. And we are going to be, we have conducted in-depth confidential interviews with Lane's most promising donors, which is yielding this information as well. The primary study deliverables are a preliminary campaign case statement that has those suggestions and feedback from those likely prospects incorporated, and we're providing that feedback and making recommendations for how to strengthen the case statement. And a campaign case statement, the primary goal of a campaign case statement is a document that answers the question for donors: why should they care enough to give a large gift to Lane Community College in support of these campaign priorities? That's the bottom, most fundamental question that we need the case statement to answer. Additionally, we're going to provide identification of the most promising prospects interviewed. The report and recommendations will have perceptions of Lane Community College. It'll include a roll-up of confidential gift intentions, right? Gift amounts. We're asking folks, if you were to support the campaign and you were given 5 years to support the campaign, or 3 to 5 years to complete your pledge, where on a scale of large gifts would you potentially be found in giving a gift? Where would you be supportive? We're providing, again, feedback on the preliminary campaign case statement, including recommendations, and then names of leadership and volunteers and the roles of institutional leadership board, et cetera, during the campaign. Those are some of the primary study deliverables. We will present our findings to the foundation's institutional leadership, as well as Dr. Bulger, and that will include a preliminary campaign plan with goals, structure, staffing, timeline, budget, policies, procedures, and forecasting, and potential major donors and where they match up with priorities based on the interviews and the data that we learned during the interviews. So shifting gears here, what is some of the roles that the Board of Education, that typically we see Board of Educations and folks, leaders in your role, undertake in a campaign? One of the best roles that you can play is advocacy, support of the president and the college's campaign goals. Ambassadorship, sharing the case for why donors should care enough to give, the case for the campaign and the priorities with the community and among your personal networks. Support, of course, when possible, giving of your time and financial resources, if possible. Events, attending campaign events when possible. And stewardship, helping thank donors, recognize them for their support of the college as needed and as engaged by staff, and just really being cheerleaders for the college and the campaign in the important role that you have. And that is my very brief overview of our campaign readiness assessment. And I just want to thank you for your leadership and the opportunity to serve you, and open it up for any questions you might have.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Kevin?
Quick question. Thanks, Walter, for your presentation. Specific question on slide 10. So you have 2 bullet points. One is preliminary campaign case statement, and the other is identification of most promising prospects interviewed. I'm assuming that that preliminary campaign case statement will also discuss the identification of the kind of the maybe not the least promising, but kind of a negative, feedback that you may have received during these interviews. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes. So the analysis and recommendation. So our report will have two parts to it as it relates to the preliminary campaign case statement. It will have a findings section, and that's when we'll discuss the perceptions, the feedback, both positive and areas of improvement. And then we'll have recommendations. And then those will be used to fashion a campaign case statement document that will reflect those revisions, hopefully reflect the recommendations, and incorporate the feedback that we've heard. So the final product won't have, the actual brochure, the campaign case statement won't have that. The report will have those findings and recommendations. And out of those findings and recommendations, we will help the Lane Community College Foundation develop a final version of the preliminary campaign case statement. And we like to use the word preliminary because in between the quiet phase and the public phase, you may have to do a course correction before you launch completely publicly, and you may have to actually change the document a little bit to reflect a number of different items. So we still like to call it preliminary until it actually goes public, but it will be less preliminary, if you will, than this initial draft that was circulated with donor interviewees.
Thank you, sir.
Zach, and then I'm going to put myself in the queue. Denise, you can go, and then I'll put myself in the queue. Zach, go ahead.
Just want to say this is very exciting. Express appreciation for the work that you're doing, the foundation's doing in this area. Excited to help in any way that I can. I did want to ask, is there any success stories like at another community college that you can point to that maybe we might try and hope to replicate here?
Sure, we are Gonzer Gerber, and personally I serve a few other community colleges, and we've got some wonderful success stories that we share with staff as well as best practices. And I'd like to say, as a kudos to the Lane Community College Foundation, I've got some clients that are asking me, well, how does Lane Community College Foundation do it? And so I'm happy to share some, things that Wendy agrees that I can pass along as well. So we do have some, there's sharing all around.
Excellent. Denise? Or Zach, any follow-up questions? All right, Denise?
So Lane County is a very large county, includes a lot of rural areas. How broad is your interviewing search? Because if you stay just in the Eugene metropolitan area, that would be very limiting to the outreach that's possible. I speak from living in Florence, and in between Eugene and Florence, there's a lot of open land, a lot of rural communities. And so how extensive is the circle of your interviews?
I can probably answer that, Walter, if you are less familiar with the geographics. So for Walter's interviews, he had very specific goals with regard to donor prospects and potential gifts. But the way we want to engage the rest of the county, if for some reason there was no one on that list from Florence, for example, it goes into the case statement and the priorities. So it goes through Stephanie's conversations with those departments. It goes through our outreach to find out what the needs are. And then as we move forward, we want to engage leaders in those areas to spread that messaging as well.
I would also add that we have donors from the Florence area and probably every point in between. I
Absolutely.
recall when I first arrived last year that there was a foundation event.
We have events out there. So another example is in previous campaigns, we've always had a Florence component to those campaigns where we tracked Florence separately and distinctly and really put a focus on that. We have a development officer, Tiana Maroney, who is specifically assigned to Florence and has built relationships in that community. So we recognize the nature of those communities focused on their needs, not supporting the needs of Eugene necessarily, and recognize that those relationships remain in those communities as well. So we really try to make it specific to those communities rather than just engaging them and supporting the main campus. We try to make it as specific as we can to those constituencies.
Excellent. And just for my purposes as a board chair, just so I can see the other board members, can we stop sharing screen just so I can see the other board members? That'd be great. Thank you. All right. Just want to make sure that I could see their hands if necessary. A really quick question. Obviously, your presentation covered, well, an individual can give their time, their talent, their treasure. Your presentation did a great job in the talent on the time side and the treasure side of what someone can contribute. What about the talent aspect of a campaign, and like what type of talents can be given to the community and to the campaign?
Yeah, so absolutely. Time and talent go with volunteering, right? So there's skill-based volunteering opportunities that are going to be very important that the foundation will be engaging the college and the leadership with. There's peer screening opportunities. There's, and by peer screening, I mean, reviewing lists of folks and names and really saying, what are some of the areas that we need to be focusing on and engaging on behalf of this campaign? Help us engage in business sectors. What are the points of affinity? So from your perspective and your knowledge in the community as leaders, right, you're probably going to be called to exercise kind of your own networks as ambassadors as well, and some form of skill-based volunteering. But I would also defer to Wendy and the foundation for any additional comments about how she envisions utilizing your talents. I would also say that you'll probably have had a chance or will have a chance to review the campaign priorities and support the president's endorsement of them as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, Denise.
What's the perspective on social media?
Very important facet of a public phase of the campaign. Very important.
So you have a dedicated person to launching or monitoring or doing things on social media?
That's a question for the foundation. I was just contracted to conduct a readiness study.
Okay.
Wendy, do you have an answer?
We use social media. We work with the college's marketing department and communications department very symbiotically on that front. So we would be engaging with them in a campaign communications plan. That campaign communications plan is going to come out of this readiness report and how we go forward with that public phase. Again, the timing is a little bit contingent on how long the quiet phase goes, but then we move into the public phase with all of those fun bells and whistles. So.
Careful, Nagy.
Yes.
I felt like I maybe left board member Mulholland wanting a little bit with a great example of some other success story. And let me just share very quickly. Another client is another community college foundation launched a quiet phase of a campaign of 9 figures, certainly. Actually, it was actually 8 figures. And very early on in the quiet phase, they received one gift that brought the campaign goal to 99% realization. So they were able to raise 99% of the campaign goal with one gift. And they said, well, we're done. And we said, no, you're not. You need to increase the goal now by another $4 million or $5 million so that you can launch publicly, engage the entire community and not let every other community member off the hook in supporting the college. So that was an example of how a great success story, but how raising a campaign goal allowed this college foundation to engage the entire community and get the entire community involved. So I didn't want to leave you wanting, Board Member Mulholland.
Excellent. Steve?
And also just a reminder, it's not the first time that the LCC Foundation has led a very successful capital campaign. So we even have our own example to reach back to.
Yes, I was going to say, in fact, we've won awards here at the foundation for that. But yeah, from 2006 to 2012, we conducted a $29 million campaign. And from 2013 to 2020, we did just over $20 million. We never left the quiet phase in that particular campaign because of a changeover in presidential leadership. But that's a very, very strong signs of success.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments from the board? All right. And obviously this is a discussion item, so no action needs to be taken, but we greatly appreciate the presentation and really look forward to seeing how we can get involved.
Yeah, we're excited to work with you guys too. So thank you. And don't worry, we will be letting you know when we need your help.
Love it.
Very excited.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, we're going to move on to item B, which is the ad hoc committee. There was during our board retreat, there was an interest in and I want to start by separating out the concept of board institutional goals and board goals. And board goals are, I almost think of them more as like board dynamics. And that's kind of the main purpose around this ad hoc committee. Obviously, we'll be discussing board institutional goals in the next topic here. But there was an interest for an ad hoc committee to be created around this to discuss how can we create effective board processes and essentially effective board actions. And this can involve not only how the dynamics of the board itself, dynamics with communication with the president, and a variety of other different processes and to develop and into goals for our board as a whole. Lisa, I wanted to give you a moment to also just add some comments in regards to this.
Sure. In our follow-up conversations with the president after the retreat, I think we all recognize that there was a lot of work left to be done and opportunities for our new board to norm, storm, and form. I don't know if that's the correct order. Maybe storm, norm, and form. Maybe you norm, storm, norm, form. I don't know. I always see more storming in my family.
That's what the ad hoc committee is for.
Yeah. And so I believe it was Zach that suggested the ad hoc committee, and we like the idea because we don't want to take up a lot of time in the meeting, like, bringing up ideas, discussing them, kind of working out the details. We want all board members to have input on how we can be a highly functioning board. And we'll be collecting information from everybody. And the other outcome of those conversations was the idea that it would be great to have an additional retreat sometime this fall. And this is something that Stephanie has encouraged us to do, and that we both agree would be beneficial. And so one of the things that the ad hoc committee will also take a look at is potential dates for us to be able to do an additional retreat. And we know that might be challenging to figure out, but we're hoping people will consider doing that.
Absolutely. And a big kind of premise will be the Google wheel for those remember from the retreat, and understanding the communication cycles and so forth. So so I guess two objectives I would love for this is to gauge interest for those who would like to be in the ad hoc committee. And then what I would also like to see is a survey go out to all board members about suggestions for board dynamics, board dynamic goals, and also availability for an additional retreat in the fall. So may I start with just a straw, not a straw poll, but just show of hands of anybody who'd be interested in the ad hoc committee? Or
Could I just make a comment?
Oh, yeah.
So I can recall at least two efforts where we have, as a board, made significant attempts to do this. And I think Lisa and I were involved in both of those efforts. So I'd like to suggest that either Lisa or I participate in this. And if you have the time and are willing, Lisa, I'd be happy to defer to you. If you don't, I will do it.
I'll step in for a minute if that's okay with you, Lisa.
Thank you, Denise.
So as a new person and everything, I'd work with you on that.
Good.
And thanks, Denise. The intent was for Austin as the chair to chair that ad hoc committee. I won't be serving on that ad hoc committee, but thanks for the vote of confidence, Mike.
Volunteer.
Excellent. Denise, Mike?
All right, excuse me.
Let's see. Oh, there's that. Okay. Anybody else?
We can only have 3 people.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So I apologize. Yeah. All right, great. So we got a new board member, Mike as well. And yeah,
Old board.
I did not say that. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah. All right, excellent. So Zach, go ahead.
So just to confirm, the ad hoc committee is going to be looking at the 2 lists of 9, the 9 principles of effective boardsmanship and the 2023 goals for modeling exemplary board governance.
Yes.
What you're looking at specifically, this group.
Exactly. Yep.
And that, okay, thank you.
Excellent. All right. And any suggestions also for the, I want to be wary of time here, but any other suggestions for the ad hoc committee other than what was discussed? And seeing no other suggestions, we'll move on to the board institutional goals. I believe we have a slide. If we can pull that up, the suggested board institutional goals. All right. And if these look familiar, it's because we have seen these before. This was presented to us during the board retreat as well. And a big part of what has developed these specific goals is the strategic plan that was developed over the course of 2 years for our institution. And that kind of guides a big part of what these suggested board level institutional goals are. So we've seen these before. There's a lot of questions and discussion around this during the board retreat. I wanted to bring this back to allow for additional discussion as well. I also would love for Lisa and the president to also add anything else to the conversation with this. Lisa?
Thanks, Austin. I think everybody might recall from the retreat that it seemed one of the realizations was that it would be beneficial to incoming board members to have an understanding of the strategic plan for the college. And I appreciate the fact that Stephanie and cabinet members provided that training, as well as the context that this was a very developed process that included stakeholder involvement and the college governance process. I do think it is beneficial to the board to ensure that we are committed to those institutional priorities and supporting the president in making sure that we're moving forward to that with them. I don't believe there's an intention to adopt these tonight. And if anyone feels that that's important, I would love to hear if people believe that's important. Thank you.
All right. We got Mike, then Zach, and I'll put myself in the queue as well.
Thank you. So I recall commenting a couple of times in previous board meetings about our equity lens process and being a bit concerned that our board seemed to be leaning in the direction of thinking that that process would be implemented by Mike Blade or some other staff member, when in fact, the original intent was for the board itself to implement and hold ourselves accountable for the equity lens process. So under the goal number one, I don't have specific language in mind, but something along the lines of implementing the equity lens process or updating and implementing the equity lens process that we had committed to earlier, or something like that.
Okay, gotcha. I definitely want to encourage discussion of any language ideas and things like that during this board discussion as well. Zach?
Have these institutional level board goals ever been previously adopted by the board?
Yes, they have.
So these are this, okay. I don't necessarily feel the need to re-adopt them. If there are changes that should be made, if this ad hoc group is coming together, I would say if there are suggested changes to this, add this to the work of that group, if that makes sense. And bring back suggested changes, maybe incorporating what Mike just said, but these look good to me and I'm happy to support them if needed when the time comes.
Excellent. Lisa?
I'm sorry, I spoke out of turn. I think what I meant to imply, Zach, was that we have approved the strategic plan. We have not approved these specific board goals. But these are based on a strategic plan that the board developed and worked on in concert with stakeholders and the college governance system. So they're closely aligned to work of the board. The board did vote and adopt the strategic plan, but these specific goals we have not.
I guess my question to other board members is, would that be worthwhile?
I see a thumbs up from Mike. Steve?
I'm a little confused. I see that this is a discussion item and not an action item. We're not planning to take action tonight.
Correct.
Can you just give me a sense of when you were proposing to take action on these board goals?
This would be for the October board meeting.
And are you now proposing that the ad hoc committee be the group that massages these into some kind of final form? Because that's not what was just discussed in terms of what the ad hoc committee would be 3 minutes ago.
Yeah, my personal desire is that we focus on, the ad hoc committee focuses on board dynamics and not the institutional goals. Lisa, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, that's correct. There was no intent to have the ad hoc committee focus on institutional goals. The intent was to discuss it in a work session and to eventually bring it to a board meeting.
We'll do Steve and then for follow-up and then you, Zach.
But it's really a question for Stephanie. So we did approve, I believe, right, your goals. I just want to get some clarity from you. Do you feel like now that we have done that you have the support from the board that you need to move forward implementing those this year? There are going to be some tough decisions, some tough recommendations that you're going to bring forth. And I know that it's important then that you have the board's support to execute those goals up front. So you have that in terms of our support for your three, I think it was 3 specific goals. How does, in your view, this sort of back that up or further underscore that commitment that you're looking to from us before you move forward with your work?
Sure. Well, I can first say that I really appreciate that the Board of Education is having this conversation about board institutional goals. It's so important for the Board of Education to take that leadership for the institution so that it has those kinds of goals. I would also say that number 7 are the president's goals. If you look at, the suggested goals for the board, number 7 are the president's goals. And so appreciate your support this evening for the president's goals. Number 1 through 6 are taken directly from the strategic plan. And so the objectives in the strategic plan are the direction that the board wants the institution to go into. And some of those are very specific. And I know with the new board members, we had a chance to cover those objectives and the goals and also the objectives. And so that would give some very specific guidance to the team of this institution, the executive team, with regard to where we should focus our attention first. And so I think it's critically important for the board to have this discussion. And from my perspective and our perspective, the sooner the better, but the board needs to deliberate and be very, very comfortable with this.
So discussions happening now and concluding in October with a vote would be consistent with your needs to execute this year.
That would be the earlier the better from my perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And just to shed light in our conversations, we want to also just have the strategic plan be a living document, not something that's just plastered somewhere on the wall. And I know President Bulger, in our conversations, that was a big part of this as well. Zach?
So it sounds like when this comes back, Mike might have a change to number 1. Some suggested changes when we come into that meeting that we can discuss and approve this document with the needed changes as soon as we can.
Absolutely. And Mike, I know that obviously you're trying to keep into the spirit of the conversation that we had with the strategic plan. So it's not necessarily changing it away from the strategic plan.
That's exactly right.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, great. And yeah. Perfect. Any other questions? Again, I really appreciate the conversation, the discussion that the board is having around this. This is really important. And I really appreciate the time that we've taken to talk about this. The next item is the budget update. Sufei, we look forward to this presentation. Thank you.
Hey, Chair Fulnagi, good evening, board members. The presentation will be pulled up, please. I'd appreciate it. So tonight, what I'd like to do is just provide you a budget update, and we'll start with a little bit of history. Next slide, please. Because it's been 3 months since the budget was adopted, and some folks weren't here during the adoption. So I'd like to talk about known changes to the current year budget to actuals, and then changes to the 24-25 projections and budget. And then talk about the process we've had to date. So from an adopted budget perspective, in late May, the budget committee approved the budget with a $4 million reserve for revenue shortfall. At that point in time, the specific corresponding reductions were not identified. And to have an adopted budget or a budget adopted by the end of June is required by law. What we did was just spread those reductions proportionally across the different programs. So for example, instruction is about 50% of our budget. So of that reduction, 50% of it went to the instruction budget just to get a budget to be adopted. Now we know that that's not strategic way to do reductions, and it's not going to align with your strategic plan and goals. So the cabinet has been working on balancing that operational budget with more strategic measures. In November, we will request that the board approve budget transfers amongst the different program areas that are based on the decisions made.
Did you say November?
November,
Thank you.
that's correct. So changes that we know to the 23-24 budget from what was adopted. The employee retention tax credit, if you recall, that is the last bit of pandemic funding that we are getting from the federal government. In the adopted budget, we were hoping for $2 million. And we've gotten updated information from our consultant, and it looks like it's 1.3 million, which a difference of 700,000. State revenue, we had high hopes that when the legislature adopted their budget, if you recall, we had to adopt ours before the legislature adopted theirs. So we had to have a guess on that. The legislature came in with a higher budget, and we had hoped at that point in time that it would mean a $2 million positive impact to our 23-24 budget. What happened was they implemented it slightly different than I had anticipated. As you recall, there's a student success funding portion of it that starts in 24-25. I had thought that that portion would all be deducted from the 24-25 budget. And what they did is they took it off the top for the biennium. So there was less state revenue in the pie to be distributed amongst the community colleges. In addition to that, we had budgeted LCC's percent at 8%, and our current percentage as calculated by HEC is 7.8. So instead of having a $2 million positive variance to budget, it's now closer to $600,000. That the state recalculates enrollment in October. And so we have hopes that maybe we'll gain some of that percentage back again. Portland Community College, as you might expect, is a big piece of that state funding pie. And their enrollment dropped around 5% last year, and while ours increased over 2%. So we anticipate and hope that maybe that difference will be a little bit higher when we come back in November and give you another update. From a tuition perspective, if you recall, we budgeted 5% increase for this fiscal year. Summer tuition was over 7% increase, so that provides an additional $53,000 to the budget. If our enrollment holds for fall, it's currently over 12%. That's over year over year. Every percent over 5 is about $80,000 additional to the budget. So we hope we're going to continue to have that, but of course we can't count that until we see it. So the good news is for this fiscal year, based on our known changes, we're flat. And we have high hopes that enrollment will boost that up a little bit. Next slide, please. So what are the changes from this fiscal year's adopted budget to what we can look forward to for 24-25? As we just talked about the employee retention tax credit, we budgeted $2 million this year. It's one time. So that reduces our budget $2 million next year. We also balanced this year's budget by removing several positions on a one-year basis, and those totaled $1.6 million. In addition, our PERS bond payments increase slightly next year to the tune of almost $500,000. And also in this year, we're using the PERS reserve fund that was set up almost 2 decades ago, I believe, to help balance the budget. That reserve fund is going to be depleted if we use it next year. And so that $485,000 is the difference between what we're using this year and what's left in the fund after this year. So all said, our known changes from the 23-24 budget to the 24-25 budget is a shortfall of $4.5 million. So as you know, you probably haven't seen a projection or a long-term financial plan for several years. There were several reasons for that. I'm sure it's hard to project when you're in the middle of a pandemic, and enrollment is counterintuitive to what historically has happened. Typically, unemployment goes up and college enrollment goes up, and we didn't see that happen during the pandemic. So trying to project a long-term forecast at that point in time is likely pretty difficult. But what you'll see hopefully in December is a long-term financial plan. And as you know, you have to make some assumptions when you develop a plan. So what's on this slide are preliminary assumptions that we might see when that moves forward in November or December, and we bring it back to you. So from a state revenue perspective, at this point in time, I'm estimating it flat for the current year budget. Right now, HEC is saying that our percentage is going to drop to 7.3%. If that happens, our revenue would be a few $100,000 lower than it is this year. I don't think that's going to happen. So if it goes up a little bit, it'll be up a few $100,000, and we'll know more when they recalculate in October. For wages and related payroll charges, that's just a flat 4% for all salary groups. That includes step and COLA increases and then the related payroll taxes. That's about 2.2 million. Materials and services, current CPI is 3%, so that's just 3%. Employee paid healthcare, we've been very fortunate in our experience ratings and our increases over the last couple of years, and it's been in the 3.4% range. So that's what you see there. Property insurance has increased 20% the last couple of years. And as you know, the insurance companies are struggling with all the catastrophic events. And so the likelihood of it being another large increase is pretty high again. To keep it at the 20% range for this year, we actually increased our deductible from 10,000 to 25,000. And then utilities, EWEB at their July board meeting, we're projecting an 8% increase for water and electric. So from an estimated perspective for these things, it's a deficit to the budget of about 3.3 million for total known and estimated changes of 7.8 million deficit to next year's budget, which is why we're working on budget packages right now. So next slide, please. So what have we been doing to date? Cabinet members have met with deans and managers over the last couple of months to brainstorm budget balancing ideas. Cabinet then met 3 times to discuss ideas. Just last week, a virtual Dropbox for suggestions from all employees went live. And yesterday, President Bolger and I met with union representatives who also came up with some ideas yesterday that we really appreciate. So our next steps are to review the Dropbox suggestions, finalize the decision packages, and implement them by October.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. Any questions, discussion? I have a few questions myself. Mike?
So I sent you some questions. I guess I sent them to Dr. Bolger, and you answered a lot of those questions. I sent those questions because I need things really clear and sort of black and white to make sure I am grasping it. And so I asked the questions and asked you to comment on whether my understanding was correct. And the one that stands out to me that I somehow missed in the presentation that you just made is it's my understanding that within the current fiscal year, we have to find $3.8 million in our budget. This board committed to doing that. Do I understand that correctly?
That is correct.
That number hasn't changed in the last.
The budget was balanced, or the budget was adopted with $3.8 million of unidentified items.
And this board charged Dr. Bolger with finding that, and this board needs to adopt that. Or do we? I'm not sure. I guess we don't. We just said do it. We said find it.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand.
Okay. I saw Lisa, then Zach, and I'll put myself in the queue. And anyone else? Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Sue. It was really helpful. My question was going to be, when will we have an opportunity to see the budget expenditure reduction packages? And prior to implementation, when will we have an overview of them? Because the board approved a budget that had the 6% equally across all areas. And from what I understood you said, that's not what is going to happen. I don't think the board gave up its fiduciary responsibility and just gave carte blanche, go ahead to anything goes. I mean, we do have policies around impacts to program and services that require the board to make decisions. In fact, this board has many, many times in budget reduction efforts voted on decisions. I think in the first couple months I served on this board, we voted to close the bookstore and close food services. We voted to basically close the CML. We've made multiple decisions based on our fiduciary responsibility. And I wasn't under the understanding that we would be giving that fiduciary responsibility up. So I would be very interested in knowing when we will have an opportunity to see these budget expenditure reduction packages prior to implementation.
So at the next work session, September 20th, we will be bringing more detailed information on those packages.
Great, thank you. That's kind of in line with the timeline that you presented.
Excellent. Zach?
Thanks. I had the same question as Lisa, so glad to hear we'll be getting an update on that at the next meeting. I'm also happy to hear that you've reached out to staff and have a Dropbox open for staff to make suggestions. I'd be interested in learning more about what people suggested, maybe things that aren't adopted, immediately now at this time might still be an idea for the future. And so if it's possible to find out more about those ideas, I'd be interested in learning more. Thank you.
Excellent. Steve?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, follow up really on Lisa's comment. I just have a different view of what fiduciary means. I think we executed our fiduciary responsibility when we took a vote on the budget to say that in order to meet our board obligations, we're expecting some reduction so that we can maintain the reserves that we need to deal with unforeseens, et cetera. That to me was us acting on our fiduciary responsibility. And then we delegated a programmatic responsibility to the president. Now we've taken our fiduciary responsibility. We don't want you to do things willy-nilly. We don't hire people to president to do that. We hire them to take very balanced decisions so that we can meet our fiduciary responsibility and to the best of the institution's ability under Dr. Bulger's direction, we can come out with the programmatic goals that are consistent, the programmatic budgets that are consistent with our strategic plan. So that's not to say that we don't want to check in and understand what's going on and have opportunities for feedback. But I guess I would just very much caution us as a board to insert ourselves too deeply into that process. Every one of these potential cuts, I don't know what they're likely to be, but every one of them are going to have a constituency, are going to have reasons why they shouldn't be cut. It's going to be a painful process. I don't know that it's made better with letting folks know or telling folks that there will be a political process laid on top of our administration's responsibilities to execute on what we ask them to do. So I would I get that it's a complicated issue. I get that we want to be involved. I get that we have constituencies we're responding to, and we're in a very difficult situation. The last thing I was going to, and we might just lean into the professional staff that we've hired and the years of experience they have to take these actions on our behalf. And with the best, the best of intentions for the institution. And I'll stop there now. And when there's an opportunity to come back for a second round, I'll just give you a sense of my question is to give us a sense of what this looks like on the other end. I mean, it's going to be a painful process now, but there's I think a positive, landing spot for the institution that we also want to hear about, and what these cuts, as painful as they are, will enable us to do going forward. And so I'll hold on to that for a second round.
Okay. Comment then a question. During the budgetary process, I felt like with the different buckets that we were trying to create with this budget document and with the budget process was about giving flexibility to the board. And, if we see increases in enrollments or decreases in enrollments, if we see additional funding from the state or less funding from the state, and in that situation, it was the governor's budget versus the chair's budget. So I actually saw a lot of the work that we did in the budgetary process as giving the board as many options as possible. My question, my favorite word during that time period was the word swirl. And I did not see, and I know swirl can have, we discussed during that budgetary process how swirl has an impact on the budgetary process. Yet I did not see, though, that in this presentation. I wanted to just kind of get a better understanding of it now that we've passed the budget.
So just for a definition for some folks, swirl is also commonly known as turnover savings in other organizations where positions are held open for a period of time and there are savings. What is best practice in forecasting and budgeting is that you don't count on swirl to balance your budget. You look at it when you do your forecasting to do a trend on how much underspending may be to see what ending fund balance impact is.
Thank you. Any other questions? I would also just want to encourage those who haven't had a chance to speak. Denise?
I want to reiterate Zach's suggestion of, I too would like to see what's the Dropbox suggestions are. And I appreciate that is a forum for campus-wide input. So I think that's very important because 6% across all programs isn't logical. I mean, I'm sorry, if a program is very small and one is very, very large, 6% does not mean the same thing across all programs. So perhaps the language of looking and getting the suggestions across all areas of where there could be possible deductions or new ways of combining things or out of the box kind of options, I think puts more creativity into the process and is more realistic to what our programs and areas of campus actually look like. So in some ways, I'd like to encourage the language change to be more open-ended that way, because I think it will engage the community, the campus. All of us are in this together, and it will engage us into that thought process. Just a suggestion.
Excellent. Before I call Mike, I wanted to, Kevin, did you have any? I want to just make sure those who haven't had a chance to speak.
I'm good.
Fantastic. Great. Okay.
So I fully agree with Denise. And in fact, my recollection is that when we had this conversation prior to enacting the budget, that we specifically said the 6% was simply an exercise. We never intended to make across the board cuts. And I thought I think if we go back and listen to the tape, that will be documented. I fully agree with you. We have to be strategic about the cuts. We don't dare make across the board cuts. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I listened back on the tape and you actually brought that up, that you didn't want to see cuts across the board. Yeah. So any other questions? Comments?
A quick comment. I just want to lend support to what Steve was saying, that the board needs to be very careful about not getting into the day-to-day operations. Yes, we should be informed and stay informed and have the most up-to-date current information possible. But we've hired President Bolter to implement the adopted budget.
Excellent. Thank you. Zach, and then Steve.
Thanks. It was the prior board that had said, President, please figure this out. I think that setting the budget is the prerogative of the board. It is literally one of our two jobs, hiring the president and setting the budget. And so I would like to see the budget changes before they go into effect. I trust the president, but it's important that we are well informed of what is taking place with the budget and, prior to it taking effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
I'll hold off.
Okay. Any final thoughts? Oh, yeah, Lisa.
I just wanted to appreciate the effort to, similar to other people, for the Dropbox and meeting with the employee groups. I think, when we talk about how challenging this will be, it will be tremendously more successful if it is actually an effort that brings thinking and engagement from all of the employees in this institution. There's absolutely leadership that needs to happen at the top, but I think the outcomes will be more successful in terms of the community functioning as a teaching and learning community, if we are engaging everybody in the process. So I really appreciate the efforts to engage the employee groups and to also have that opportunity. Thank you.
Steve?
Well, I think given that I've lost the argument to try and keep the board somewhat out of this, and that we are likely to, receive information through you, Stephanie, as to, the cuts you're proposing and the rationale behind them. I would also then, I guess, encourage us to keep it somewhat, that is to view it through the documents that the board kind of governs your activity. So the strategic plan, for example, your cuts, the proposals that you make, the packages that you propose, I think what we should expect then is for you to explain how they, either limit or advance the goals that we have set through the strategic plan, how they allow you to expand on them, act on them now or in the future. Where the equity lens issue is coming into play as you've thought through, spreading out or changing these across the board 6% cuts into more targeted specific ones. I would hope that we could adhere to, a set of agreements that past and boards as well as this board has made, and really trust the expertise of our administration to use those guiding documents to carry out our wishes.
Excellent. Just a brief comment. I just want to encourage our frontline workers, our staff, our classified professionals, and our faculty, any suggestions of creating efficiencies or to reduce costs. I know that sometimes the best people to find out where we can find those efficiencies are those who are doing the job and doing the work. So I just want to encourage staff if there's ways that you could find efficiencies. But I also want to promote, there's a lot of talk about cuts and stuff like that. I want us to also be an institution of entrepreneurship. I want us to be an institution where our staff can feel like that there's opportunities to create efficiencies, to create a greater, better student-centric serving institution. And I think that the best ideas that are come about from that is from our frontline staff and from the workers who are doing the work. And I just want to encourage that and promote that spirit of entrepreneurial change as well. And any other comments or discussion? With that, we will thank you, by the way, really great presentation.
Austin?
So I apologize. Yep.
No, can I have a point of personal privilege before we go on?
Yes.
I think I'm gonna need to leave the meeting, and I'm not feeling 100% this evening, but I did want to be here for this portion of the meeting. I will watch the remainder of the meeting. My apologies to our VP of Academic Affairs and Student Affairs. Thank you for your efforts. But I think this is as far as I'm going to make it tonight. So
We'll carry on without you, Lisa.
yeah, thank you. Have a good evening, everybody. And my apologies for not being here for the entire time.
Lisa, we appreciate you. Thank you. All right, moving on to academic affairs update.
Good evening, Chair Kennedy and board members. I submitted a report to you earlier. It's quite lengthy. I'm not going to use my time this evening to read it to you, but rather I just want to highlight 3 areas of importance that I think you're going to find interesting. Like many of you today on the board, Dr. Joyce and I are new to our roles at the institution. We have been spending our time this summer building relationships with our staff and our community and creating synergy between academic and student affairs and focusing on student experience as a driver of everything.
Oh, I apologize. I just wanted to make sure Zach, Zach, can you hear okay?
Very soft.
Oh, yeah.
It's coming in and out. If you're able to speak a little closer to the mic.
So a little
Yeah.
closer. Okay, I just need to kind of scooch up.
Excellent. Perfect. No, thank you so much. I apologize.
So we believe by focusing on the student experience that more of our students will succeed. And this is going to have positive impacts on our enrollment, our retention, and our financial condition, which we've been speaking about this evening. We will be articulating this focus on the student experience throughout the upcoming academic year. And we are very eager to bring our faculty into these discussions when they return to campus next week. And you will be hearing more about some of these shared projects this evening from Dr. Joyce in his report. The board has an important role in the academic direction of the institution by considering new academic programs for approval. And I know that many of you are new, so I just want to take a couple of minutes and say that curricular changes in new programs are first reviewed by our curriculum committee. If approved, they come on to me as the Vice President of Academic Affairs, and then if they are approved, those curricular changes go into effect, and if there are new programs, they come to you for consideration. We're going to have 2 for you this September in a couple of weeks that were approved last June. So you will be able to exercise that authority almost immediately this academic year. Program development is very important for us in serving the needs of our community. And it's also very much tied with enrollment growth and meeting the goals of our strategic plan. Finally, I want to talk to you just briefly about some exciting developments around opportunities for professional development for our faculty and our staff. I've been working very closely with my faculty colleagues to secure Dave and Helen Edwards. They are the founders of Saunders Incorporated as the keynote speakers during faculty in service here in a couple of weeks. Dave and Helen are actually, yes, in 2 weeks. Dave and Helen are experts on artificial intelligence, and I learned about them with my recent work with the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. As you may be well aware, artificial intelligence is predicted to be as disruptive as the internet. That's going to bring both opportunities and challenges to higher education. During public comment last spring, you heard from our math faculty who are very concerned about assessment. Dave and Helen are going to discuss the importance of us embracing this new technology, and they're going to provide us insight in how to integrate artificial intelligence into academia. In addition to this keynote address, faculty will be hosting numerous sessions on artificial intelligence and how they've been incorporating some strategies in their classes and how they've been working. And our goal is to get ahead of this emergent technology, be proactive, and perhaps even take a leadership role here in Oregon amongst community colleges. I do anticipate a year-long project and response to artificial intelligence, and there'll be more to come in the academic year as we make progress towards getting our heads around this new technology. And that is the end of my comments.
Excellent. Any questions or discussion? I'm just worried about AI board members. I'm just kidding. No, any further discussion? Without any further discussion, we'll move on to student affair. Oh, I'm sorry, Zach.
I just wanted to, maybe I'll follow up later. I was interested in the creation and the review of the default academic plans and what opportunities there might be in the future to make it so that when students initially sign up for a degree plan, that they are able to set their 2-year schedule at that point in time, so that they're not having to set their schedule term by term. So I'll follow up with that later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, excellent. Moving on to student affairs update.
Well, hello, everybody. It's nice to see the 2023-2024 board session. Thanks for having Dr. Tinkham and myself the opportunity to speak at these meetings. I as similar to Dr. Tinkham, we provide a regular update to the board about our area. In the upcoming year, though, we're looking at maybe expanding what we put in that board report. And just before I get to that, though, student affairs, basically, it's made up of professionals dedicated to supporting the academic and personal development of individuals attending Lane Community College. That's our focus. That's what we do. And we try to be student focused on all of our work. So in this upcoming year, I plan to include updated enrollment funnel information board reports. This also ties into board goal number 2, monitor and support colleges' efforts to increase enrollment. And it reflects both the board goals and the presidential goal. And it provides updates on efforts to increase enrollment, but also efforts to retain current students and improve the student experience as well. And so we're going to have regular updates on that. Excited to bring that to us and something like a more formal report on our enrollment. Also, I'd like to invite student guests to speak about their experiences at Lane. I think it's important to hear the student voice. That's who we're here for. And then a focus on key student support areas and the services provided by classified professionals, managers, directors, faculty, and deans. Right now, we've always got projects and initiatives going on. That's the nature of community college student affairs. One of them I want to briefly address. Lane is experiencing what is a nationwide problem faced by community colleges, and that is falsified applications for admissions to the community college. It's not happening at the 4 years, and they've got a lot of different hoops to jump through to get into a 4-year university. But with us being open access, it's allowing criminal individuals the attempt to obtain financial aid monies. So we get a lot of fraudulent applications. With that, we have to be careful about our enrollment reports and the number of applications, and not accepting that, say, 12.5% increase as the absolute truth, because we know every day we deal with these fraudulent applications. We even have staff who are focused on it a lot of their time right now. We get so many. Basically, we have to look through every application individually, even though we've got automated technology and systems to make this process better. Enrollment Services and ITT are working on this together. We've partnered. We're doing things like tracking IP addresses. It seems suspicious, the time of day applications sent in, all kinds of things. The other community colleges in Oregon and across the country are facing the same issue. And so what we're doing is what I would recommend is as well that the 17 community colleges be advised to bring this issue to the state and also Washington, D.C., because we're all trying to help stop this individually. And as we develop new ways, for instance, Mount Hood Community College required high school transcripts as a way of stopping this happening. All of a sudden, they were falsifying high school transcripts. So every time we make a move, they make a move. So And I'm taking that exactly from Dawn, who informed me of this from the OCARD meeting. And so I wanted to bring that to you. Other things we're doing, we have enrollment scholarship incentives going on right now. One of these is the Momentum Scholarships. These were funded by our foundation here. Jennifer Fry, who you've all met in academic affairs, piloted this program in the spring. It's based upon Guided Pathways best practices. So students who take and successfully complete 2 required courses in mathematics or English in sequential quarters are given a $500 award applied to their student account. So students who do complete their mathematics or English courses up front have a way better success ratio than students who don't. And there's a lot of research done on that. So we're excited about that. We also have a comeback scholarship. What that is for students who left Lynn several terms a year ago, we have an incentive to get them to come back if they owe $300 or less. We'll pay off their remaining debt with another foundation account, and that will help them re-enroll for classes. On top of that, we've been working with this group called Motomatic. Brett in our marketing communications department got us on this track, and basically, so returning students, as you'll see in the enrollment reports, are those that have attended Lane before but haven't taken classes in a year or more. And working with Motomatic, an organization that utilizes the power of social media to capture stopped out students, we've really been quite successful. As of September the 4th, we have 268 students returning and registered with the help of this. That's an increase of 41 students over the past week alone. And that's 69% of our returning students for this week. Those students, the 268 students enrolled in over 1,900 credits. And so that's substantial. What is interesting as well is 50% of them, 57% are male, which is more of our typical demographic, 21% Latinx, and 12% Black and Indigenous people of color. So we're kind of making inroads in areas that we haven't been as strong in the past, and that's kind of using marketing, communications, and external help to do this. And also, I just wanted to mention too, one of the other things we've been working on is I remember the board talking about at one of my first meetings in the spring, and that was Epicosity as a marketing communications vendor. They've also been working with Motomatic with us. And what we've been doing is through Brett's group is helping drive a digital marketing during these last few months and accelerating it now. This is the biggest marketing push we've had in years. And however, I will give the caveat, if you don't see something in your own social media or anywhere like that, it's because we're not exactly the target market for our student here. So just letting you know that.
Makes sense.
All right. And I think that's all I had for now. I've always got other things, but I want to be thoughtful of the 5 minutes.
Thank you so much. Excellent. Any questions, discussion? Please.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate these reports. Very informative. In the enrollment and retention reports, are you able to sort out, as the Brits say, separate out the enrollments and retentions of the centers? That is of interest to me, so I can see the difference, for example, between main campus and, let's say, Florence, because each center has a different role, so to say, or a different role. Anyway, I think that could be informative, because I know we talk about deductions, right, to straighten out the budget deficits, but there's also great opportunities for increasing. And I commend your staff and your work and your open-mindedness to using that automated, well, your new system. It seems like it's being quite successful. And I found in my teaching experience that oftentimes students who sort of disappeared off the radar screen just need to be re-engaged and re-invited and you reach out and they're so happy about that. There really isn't, sometimes there's a very particular reason why they left, but that might have passed and they just need a new invitation to continue with their goals and to be encouraged. And so I think all those efforts are really quite worthwhile. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. In kind of answer to your first comment about the centers, it is possible for us to gather that kind of information. And one of the, I'm working with Kathy in IR, and she is a mine of information and can really break down these kind of things for us. And for example, I asked her about our new recent enrollments and what percentage of them were outside of Eugene and Springfield. And I was surprised that 24% of our new enrollments had attended high school within Eugene, Springfield, and the rest were outside. We could have had transplants, we could have had all kinds of things, but it was just an interesting number. So we can get that kind of information for sure. And I'd be glad to provide that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that because I think it also corresponds with the president's enormous efforts to go out to the rural communities and to meet with those school districts and chambers. And so we start to see the results, the tangible results of those efforts. And I think that's a very positive move.
Excellent. Any further discussion or questions? Excellent. Wonderful presentation. Thank you. All right. We're moving on to SGA, SCCEF, and LCCEF and LCCEA reports. Do we have President Smith here from SGA? I saw him earlier.
He was here.
Okay, gotcha. Hopefully we can see him return. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and maybe we can come back to that. Let's go to the LCCEA report.
Good evening, members of the board and President Bulger. I'm going to share a few updates on and remarks regarding the health clinic, shared governance, the budget, as well as some updates from summer on behalf of faculty. Regarding the health clinic, as reported in July, faculty overwhelmingly support maintaining the health clinic for students. We're kindly asking for more information about its disposition and future plans for the fee structure recommended by the task force that was convened in June. Faculty and other employees in the clinic were informed at the end of April that the clinic would close in December and have received no formal updates since that time. Their lives and livelihoods continue to remain in limbo. Given the strong student support for a modest fee increase to maintain the clinic and the task force recommendations, we ask you to schedule deliberations about any changes to the fees as soon as possible to ensure seamless services to students and to explicitly affirm the importance of provision of reproductive health care for our students on this campus. Regarding shared governance, as a follow-up to the presentation to new board members about the shared governance system, I wish to clearly state on behalf of faculty that we do not find the information presented to be consistent with the established governance system. Please see the data from the all faculty survey on this topic. I've also included in my report the full text of Board Policy 325, which is also in board docs, of which only part was presented in the training. In addition, I think it's important to review BP 325 in conjunction with the governance manual. As outlined in both BP 325 and the governance manual, the responsible administrator makes a decision only when consensus cannot be reached. On College Council, the responsible administrator is the college president, who serves as vice chair and has a voice in every decision and can block any decision from reaching consensus. This is part of the checks and balances of the system itself that also gives an opportunity for stakeholders, including students, to participate. The system is not one that only provides recommendations. This new reframing of the governance system as one that provides recommendations only was incredibly disruptive to the campus community last year. And given the presentation to new board members, looks to be an ongoing issue, negatively impacting morale, trust, and confidence in our established systems. Moreover, at the training, it was stated that it would be highly unlikely that any administration decision would not follow the consensus decision of College Council. However, that is what transpired in April this year with the tuition increase presented to the board. Regarding the college budget, I'd like to express appreciation to Sue for providing updates about the budget, to LCCEF President Frankie Kokenauer, and to me yesterday. We're really excited to see that enrollment is up 12.6% for fall term as of right now. And tuition is assessed on October 2nd. We're looking forward to knowing the full details about increased revenue on that date prior to the October board meeting. We're sad to hear about the enrollment drop at PCC, but happy to hear that their loss could likely be LCC's gain when our share of the CCSF is recalculated in October. Also, as you may recall, there were many different figures presented for the ending fund balance last spring. Over the 3 previous years, LCC had successfully restored the ending fund balance in Fund 1 to over $8 million by June 30th, 2022, according to the official audit. However, according to official documents presented to the Budget Committee this spring, even though employee salaries were under budget for FY23, M&S was over budget by more than $2 million, and other issues were reported by the administration indicating that more than half the ending fund balance had been spent in 1 year. While no new figures have yet been made available for the ending fund balance, we are optimistic that new information will be provided, and we encourage full disclosure of the ending fund balance from all funds for FY23, which ended in June, before any budget cut or change decisions are considered. Finally, regarding the budget, I hope you will take the time to review the files I sent with recommendations and analyses related to the budget. And last but not least, some exciting updates about what faculty have been working on over the summer. As we eagerly look forward to welcoming students this term, faculty have been very busy updating our courses this summer because we moved to an updated version of our learning management system, which is the platform used for online courses and also the online component for in-person classes. Our wonderful faculty coordinators in the Faculty Professional Development Program are engaged in final planning activities in preparation for in-service. Our LCCEA leaders have been engaged in strategic planning as well as coordination with our statewide organization, the Oregon Education Association, which included this summer already, early preparations for the 2025-2027 legislative session, with our goals for dramatic increases to funding for community colleges on top of the 12.3% achieved for this biennium. Finally, LCCEA is delighted to host a guest speaker at our all-faculty meeting later this month, Dr. Gary Rhodes, who is the director of the Center for the Study of Higher Education at the University of Arizona, who has also served as the general secretary for the American Association of University Professors and is a member of the board for the American Council on Education. Thank you very much, and I will follow up and send a copy of this in written form.
Excellent. And I'll forward your comment to the Portland Community College Faculty Federation. Their loss, our gain. Anyway, we'll move on to the LCCEF report. Great.
First of all, I just want to tell you that I didn't make it through everything I wanted to say. I'm not going to go back to that speech, but I did want to say that one of the things that we are willing to do as a way to see if it could help the budget is classified employees are willing to look at, or the union. I can never speak when I talk to you guys. I jumble up all my words every time. But anyways, we're willing to look at what it would take to see if the classified employees could take over the management of Titan Court. We would prefer the building gets sold. I mean, really, it just seems to be an expensive building. But if it would be less money to pay classified employee salaries than to pay a whole company, especially an out-of-state company, we would be willing to work with that. I don't know what it would take, Shane, to work with you on that, just to look at the information, but we would be willing to consider that. And that was something that I did have to say to you guys at the very end of everything else, is that we were asking if you'd pull it off the consent agenda. But it sounds like that wouldn't have been a good idea anyways, and that would be something to look at for next year. Anyways, to go back, the classified employees are struggling. For many of us, the college has given COLAs that were below the CPI for our area. The prices for basics of living are increasing for all of us. Our pay is not keeping up with these increases, and we need to be able to live in a home without roommates or other family members that are helping to pay the bills so we can survive. I'd like to ask that when you go home tonight, you look at your household and think about how you would make our salaries that we get work for you. Are you a homeowner? Many of you probably are. How would you pay your mortgages, utilities, insurance, and upkeep on our wages? What would you do if you had kids in school? I know when my kids were in school, that was more expensive than Christmas, when you had to pay for their books and their clothing and the student fees. And then, their activities, that was separate from the fees. You also had the activities, the sports. It ended up costing me every year well over $1,000 just in September, just to pay for those. And those weren't the ongoing fees, for their sports throughout the year and the ongoing schools, prices for everything with school, and then clothing, because my kids sure seem to grow. They're both a lot taller than I am. Anyways, please go look at that tonight and see how it is for us. It seems like we're asking for a lot, but we're not. We're just trying to make it. We're trying to make it work right now with our bills and our budgets, just the same as the colleges. And we're not upset with anybody. We're just scared. And so I want to say that. Another thing I want to say is I listened to Shelley's bring up artificial intelligence. I sure hope that we're really leery of artificial intelligence. It would be so easy. I was sitting there in my mind thinking about it, to replace faculty members with artificial intelligence to teach classes that would never give them the community experience that we give them at Lane. And I hope that is something that the college never considers. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a good-
I just wanted to provide one more opportunity, SGA. No, okay. All right. Moving on to information reports. Any questions? Anything that additional discussion points? All right. Moving on to the good of the order.
Austin.
I'm so sorry, Zach. I apologize about that. Go ahead.
I had a question. The foundation report, there was a sentence about hard hat tours of the healthcare facility, and to contact Tiana if you had not gotten an email. I've not gotten an email. I was wondering how to follow up to maybe take that tour.
We'll get you an email, Zach.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
And then I did have a question just about something that was raised. I can follow up after, but what is the lowest salary and hourly wages of employees on campus? And what is the average? I'd be interested in that information. I can follow up with that after. Thank you.
Okay. All right, excellent. Moving on to the good of the order, future meeting dates. And I also wanted to talk about the foundation. the foundation gala. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We added the LCC Foundation Gala, which is on November 2nd, 2023. And obviously we hope as we kind of heard in our presentation to support and be cheerleaders and also just support the foundation as a whole. I hope that we can all attend that. So we went ahead and put that into the future meetings. I believe that was all that we were adding to that. So, yeah. Okay, perfect. Also, a board member also brought up there's some conflict with some of the dates with the Oregon Community College Association annual meeting, and we will try to do our best to address those things. So, yeah, thank you, Mike, for bringing that up. We're moving on to board members' questions and comments. Please note this is also a great opportunity to bring up items you'd like to bring up for future agenda items that we can then, the president and I can then work on adding to an agenda in a future meeting. Mike?
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to the College Council Chair Kyle Schmidt's report to us in June that he asked the board to follow up on some specifics and about governance. And I'd like for our next work session to give Dr. Bolger an opportunity to do that follow-up and give us an update.
Okay, excellent. Noted. Any other, Steve?
Yeah, I just wanted to address some of the comments that we heard during public testimony. I won't go into the specifics, but several of those who gave public testimony were basically talking about things related to bargaining, of which we as board members, of course, are not party to. So the details of which I don't really fully, understand. I hear what they say, but I don't know how to respond or, what to make of it. So I just wanted to, I assume at some point in the near future, we would get some kind of an update as a board, probably an executive session. And I just want to ask staff to keep in mind the things that we're hearing in public testimony. I, for one, I assume that there's more than one side of the story. I'd like to hear a full version so that when we get those kinds of comments in public testimony and elsewhere, we have some basis for, for trying to understand those through. So that was one thing, is I assume that's coming at some point, but just please keep in mind the things that we're hearing in public testimony. For some of us are the only things that we hear from those represented staff members. And then the other thing, I'll just take another run at this. I just want to remind our board that, we're going to go through a really tough fall, or perhaps fall and winter, based on the financial situation that we find ourselves in, right? And it's especially tough for new board members, I'll say, because they haven't participated in any of this before. It's certainly not their fault, but here we are in a really difficult situation. Sue was telling us that we're close to 8 million in the hole, essentially, relative to next year's budget. We don't have $8 million in reserve. So if we don't find some way to make that up, and there hasn't been any proposals shared with us yet, but if we don't find some way to make up that shortfall, we will actually have a payroll issue this time next year, right? And we've already been told essentially by Moody's that previous boards have not fulfilled their fiduciary responsibilities, and that's part of the reason for the downgrade. So we are being hit in a bunch of ways, and there's a lot of eyes on this board and how we act. And I just want to remind us, we put our president, who's relatively new, even still, in an extremely difficult situation, right? We've asked her to follow through with a recommendation or a requirement from last year's board. Hey, find some, whatever it is, $3-4 million worth of cuts. And now we're signaling something different. We're saying, hey, move forward with those proposals, and we may or may not support them. And I just want to just imagine if you were put in that situation. Imagine if you, as a president, relatively new, had to go forward with those, make those public, and then be subject to the will of a board that may or may not support it. How can you carry on if the board doesn't? So we put ourselves in a very difficult situation. We put our president in a far more difficult situation. I just encourage all of us in our one-on-one meetings with her over this next month to really have those hard discussions so that we can get to a place where we can move through this difficult phase as painlessly as we can, with our mission and our vision intact, so that we can land in a healthy place.
Mike?
Yeah, I'll just, I concur with what you said, Steve, and will add that we have a foundation that is embarking on a capital campaign, and I'm concerned about that foundation having the capacity to raise money if they don't have confidence that this board will support the actions that are necessary to bring us into compliance with the commitment that we made. I think they have to have confidence in us, and I'm concerned about that capital campaign if they don't have confidence in us.
Thank you. Zach?
I'll just state as a new board member at this point, all that we've asked for is for information about what the proposed changes are before they've been implemented. Nobody has yet signaled that anyone expects to make changes to those. I expect it'll be late in the process to make substantial changes, but if we know about what the changes are and we can't come up with solutions that lead to better outcomes, then great. But I'm just looking for information at this point in time. Thank you.
Excellent. Noted. Thank you for the comments there. Oh, Denise?
I didn't see on the reports, I'm accustomed in my previous community college experience to the alumni group. And it was a very financially stable, active, integral part. It's a big potential fundraiser and all that sort of thing. So if it's possible to have a report, either written or whatever kind of way from that group, I'm still trying to learn and understand how it fits in. I believe it's under the foundation here in the structure.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's a different audience who has kind of different things, different ideas that
Absolutely.
happen. So I appreciate that. And I would like to acknowledge that we, correct me if I'm wrong, I understood your information from the land recognition, and thank you for that background, to message to us at LCC, and maybe this is with the board, that we could improve. That we could improve our land recognition statement or something. So I'd like to bring that up as a discussion in our work session to listen to how, in fact, we could improve that.
Absolutely.
I think we could.
Absolutely.
We could do that.
Yeah. President Bolger wants to respond to the foundation. And I have a response in regards to the Atlantic.
I just want to ask for the board's patience with regard to the alumni report as we build and rebuild the alumni effort at Lane Community College and with the foundation. The foundation is taking the lead along with the college. I would ask for the board's patience. I would also say, though, that we are including alumni, and we're calling it the Alumni Network as opposed to an alumni association. It has a semantic difference for us, but we will be bringing that back to the board so that you can see what's happening with the Alumni Network and with all of those plans. I would just ask for your patience on that as we plan.
Thank you.
Absolutely. In regards to the land acknowledgement, I previously, as a board member, made those same points as well. And of course, there's many tribal leaders that we can reach out to about this. There's many tribal elders we can also reach out to. But I think it's also really important for us to reach out to the students, our NASA students, and to hear from them what they would like to see from their institution with the land acknowledgement. And I would love to work with the president to reach out to that student population, to ask them that question and to see where there's some possibilities there, and what should we reflect on with the land that we stand on, and how can we recognize it, honor it, and do good work within it. So yeah, I think there's some good conversations that we should have with this. There's also maybe some conversations our ad hoc committee can have with this, but President Bulger and I will definitely consider what we can do with as far as next steps with that.
I appreciate that. I actually was in the Coachella Valley that has indigenous groups there.
Mhm.
And to the credit of LCC, the Native American Center is breathtaking.
Mhm.
It's very moving to be in there when we were in our retreat. And we did not have a land recognition statement. So that's I think very positive. But anytime that we can engage the students and the center to even make it more,
Mhm.
right, then we'll take the lead maybe on that.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yes. And we'll definitely have conversations with Avery about that as well.
Thank you.
Excellent. Zach. Oh, did you have? Oh, yeah. Okay. Zach, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to express appreciation for the discussion and for the gentleman that provided our statement tonight and his comments. I think that we should accept the challenge and try and make it so that our actions speak louder than our words on this subject. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. A potential future topic as well. I've had conversations with Michael Blade in regards to a board policy, specifically around, and I've discussed with actually several of you before in regards to, I would like to hear more from students. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a student representative on the board. President Bulger, in California, you have a lot of experience with this in the California community college system. Back at Klamath Community College, I helped pass a board policy to allow for a student representative to sit on the board, not to vote, because the vote is given to us as board members by the power of the voters of this district, but to give them the opportunity to be called upon by the board chair to be a part of our discussions, to ask questions, and to be a part of this. Because the current dynamics of student conversation right now is that they wait till the end of the meeting and they give a report. It's not a two-way dialogue. And I want to, in our work session, to look over the language of that policy and consider it for a potential action in the October meeting. I look forward to this conversation. I think that this is a wonderful opportunity to, we are the community's college, and students are most certainly part of our community.
My experience with a student on the Board of Trustees in California was very positive, and often it's students who have poli-sci majors, and it adds. It's another thing that adds to their resume and to their experience in a very hands-on way. So I think we've never had difficulty in getting students to be involved.
Exactly. Yeah. I think learning happens also outside of the classroom too. So yeah, absolutely. Any other comments, questions, potential topics for future? Oh, Zach. Yep. Thank you.
I'm interested in that concept of having a student on the board. I think that could be beneficial. I also just wanted to raise the idea of potentially inviting our guests from the student government and LCCEA and LCCEF to potentially present earlier during the board meeting, potentially right after public comment, so that they're not waiting until the end of our meeting in order to give their short update to us. Just as an idea. Thank you.
Gotcha. Yeah, noted. Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? With that, we are adjourned. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
You got it.